us set our goals and objectives. It gives us some clarity and alignment moving forward so we can plan what we're doing and then kind of not like shotgunning things. It helps us allocate our resources. And it helps us make informed decision making, both in the long term, so we have goals, but in the short term as well. So we take steps and we do actions that move us along towards those long-term goals. And it has performance measures. That's kind of what we're going to do part today, is to look at what we actually did this year, and what needs to be done, what maybe needs to be carried over, or what needs to be added. That's kind of what we're going to do today.
So we will go through the work, kind of, because there's certain we have already done.
We're going to mark them. So things which are done, they move to a page in the strategic plan for accomplishments.
Yeah.
As we work for it. So we keep track of what's really happened. And a key thing to remember is there's still 3 months left to go in the fiscal year. So we're in fiscal year 26, so we look at what was planned in the strategic plan, broke it down by years, 26, 27, 28. Another key thing to remember is the strategic plan we put together is a 3-year plan. So we do updates in 26 and 27. Right? Go to an update today, 26. The calendar year 26 and 27. And then every 3 years, we do more than an update. We tackle the entire plan. So that means we relook at what we're going to look at here in the next slide. We look at our mission statement and our vision statement. So this is what we put together as a team last year. And then, so you all are familiar with this, you got it. And then in the next slide, we talk about our core values. So we sat around the table, we figured out what was important to us. We helped define them: respect, transparency, accountability, service excellence, collaboration, and resilience. And then we came up with focus areas, which is the next slide. Each of those focus areas is not shown on this page, but we developed guiding principles so we could manage those focus areas. If you go to the general plan that's on the website, or that you might be in your file somewhere, you see a breakdown of guidelines and how to achieve those things. So that's pretty much how the strategic plan works. So it's really important, and we've done it. And I think I've seen other towns where if I look at Cave Creek and how they run their agendas, we do it sometimes, but we should do a better job of it. I think is highlight how things in our agenda correlate to the strategic plan. Right? Virtually, somehow, most things do. Unless it comes out of left field or something, but or if it's some administrative update. But things that we're accomplishing, the resolutions that we're passing, probably many of them, things that we're approving, wherever it is probably somehow tied to something that's in our strategic plan. Okay.
Yeah, I can comment on that. One of the things that I had been discussing with staff this past year that we intend to implement is an actual section in that staff report for agenda items that tie it back to the actual council priority. So it'll be there, just one line, council priority, council strategic plan, and it'll say which of those focus areas it applies to. And then we're going to start tracking them that way as well.
That's a good thing. So many of us in this room, we know how they're connected, right? We're paying attention, we know. But it helps the public know, what are they doing, running off doing that for? Well, there's a reason, because it's connected to a strategic plan item. Okay, next slide. That wasn't the slide I was expecting. So Sheila put together, we'll go back and reference this, and you may have a copy of this already. Did you get a copy of this, everyone?
You know, that's on me.
Okay, okay, it's not a big deal. But so what she did is she listed all the items in our current strategic plan by the fiscal year that we anticipated having them done. And so they're all listed here. We're going to go through them. You don't need to read this. But it's, it starts from the top to the bottom, FY26 through FY28, and then things which are multi-year. Okay. The next slide.
I'll send you guys a presentation.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is each of the staff positions that has strategic plan objectives, that are listed in the past will give us an update of where they stand. First up with the administration with Kristen.
Thank you. Yeah, so these are the strategic projects. So that long list of things we just saw, those are the strategic projects. So we broke them down one by one for all the fiscal year 26 to give you an update on where they're at. So for administration, the first one was cost recovery fees. If you guys will remember, in the spring of 2025, we initiated a discussion about cost recovery fees. We created a new fee schedule and then adopted that new fee schedule in May. After 30 days, it became effective. So June 1st of 2025, the fee schedule in place. So that'll be part of something I look at in the budget this year to see how that change to the fee schedule has created any change to our increase in fees. And we believe it has overall, especially some of the changes we made with the planning and zoning fees. So that one is complete. The next is software integration. We had begun implementation of the Groundkeeper software, which is also called SmartGov. This applies to planning and zoning, it applies to code enforcement, it applies to building safety as well. It's a system where we track all of our cases, all of our permits. Am I missing anything?
Short-term rentals.
Short-term rentals. Complaints. We don't talk about those.
So few, but.
So it's an overall software system that does it all for us. There are a number of staff that use the system: CJ, Stacy, Samantha, Ruben, Rob, and it's made us much more efficient. We're not even in we're only in our second quarter rollout of it, and we've already seen what we consider a decrease in traffic at the front desk. Because now developers and really any of our customers relevant in those areas, they can go online and do everything. So the initial rollout, we had a little bit of, people asking us how to use the system, how do you get in the system. There was, a number of phone calls. Debbie and Sam fielded a lot of those, but we're really seeing it even out now and creating less traffic for us and a much more concise way of tracking. Comments can be entered in, and CJ, Stacy, Sam, Rob, they all use it to comment back, to give direction on whether or not things are approved, not approved, how to do it correctly. So
Does the public see, they're not gonna see any internal comments, things like that, but can the public access and see, oh, Sheila's doing a remodel, she pulled a permit, like I can see that house with that,
the public can access it.
so they can't access any of it.
But the homeowner can.
Customer.
Customer can.
Right, so whichever customer you are, the developer, the homeowner,
Yeah,
they
so
access it.
she'll be able to follow the process of the review in-house.
That's exactly right. They can follow it from the day they submit the application to the day that it's completed. They also pay their fees through this system as well, which is part of that decrease in traffic. It used to be we would take all those fees through the cash register up front.
But they can only see their part.
Correct.
They can't see anything else.
So business licenses also run through this.
Yes.
Most cities and towns do this already, so we're one of the last ones implemented. So those who work across boundaries, they've already experienced it.
Yes, very much so.
And I would think that they're pleased that we're finally in the 21st century.
The people, are you thinking that you would like to see the public have access to it? I think there might be that capability, and as long as it's something that,
That would be a public record, right?
People
That's
do
true.
ask, is there a way to tell if a neighbor's doing something,
Right.
if they have a permit?
Correct, so if you can
Right.
see, because there's most cities that you can pull up, you can see it. You don't see any of the details of the communication with any of the people, you just see like general info, which is all you should see.
Yeah. So, just speaking from experience, I was on the implementation team for the same software in 2016 and 17 in Glendale. The public piece of it does, the interface costs money.
oh, okay.
Okay, so that would be something we need to look into.
Yeah.
Because you can't go in the system unless you're registered in the system as someone who is a customer of the system. To create a public interface with it, we'd have to have it connect to something on our website. So there will be some investigation that needs to occur here if we want to do that. And then determining what We just thought what would be the actual public record that we could transition over. So they wouldn't actually be going into the SmartGov system, they would be going into the website.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like an online permit, kind of like even in real estate, someone buys a house and they did that, did they get permits? Oh, you just click, oh yeah, they got permits, you just,
There's certainly a way to do that, and you'll see in a moment, I'll talk about the transparency portal. This would be something that I would definitely think we should consider for that transparency project that I'll be working on for the next 2 years. And it'll tie into the bigger system change that we need to make. So I wrote that down immediately. What can we use from public record from the Granicus SmartGov system and the interface? We're currently working on the first step for us is an interface with the Granicus system to the new financial system. So once we complete that, we can move forward with investigating how to do that. The other thing is we have to investigate, and you'll see this later on in the presentation, the website in itself. What we're hosting right now is the site that we're using as a host site actually applicable and usable for these purposes. So it may actually lead to an implementation of having to get a new website host as well. So it kind of ties into a bunch of different things.
Are there any bells and whistles in SmartGov that we're anticipate using that we aren't using yet? Part of the rollout, we rolled it out.
We pretty much interaction had rolling out everything that we wanted to use. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to see what's coming in the future.
Exactly.
Experiencing that with the records management system as well.
So we pay annually for this, and so they probably give us an update to the programs, and so maybe there's new things that we have. Okay, cool.
Right.
Good. Anyway, so this one is done.
Yeah, but it'll be ongoing for the rest of its life.
yeah.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then the fire EMS and the sheriff's contract, we had anticipated completion of that in fiscal year end 26. Excuse me, 27. So we're actually a year ahead of schedule, right? Mayor, Councilmember Amoroso, Councilmember Johnson, and Gary Neese were able to pretty much get us to a point where you should be seeing that contract on the agenda fairly soon. The contract won't actually take effect for Fire Rural Metro until July 1st of 2027, right? So that's actually fiscal year 28, but we want to lock in that contract right now so we get those prices.
Yeah, so there's two things for us. One, it helps us plan for the future, so we know what's going to cost us for the next, so I said 5 years out, beginning to actually 6 years out, so it's 27. And they were anxious to have a contract under the belts, right? And they gave us a break on the cost.
Isn't it gonna be for 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll kind of know.
Yeah, but you don't know is the inflationary index for the out years. Out years being 5, 10, 60. Okay, great.
And then for the
So that's going to be finished.
Yeah. We're going to mark that finished for fiscal year 2026. For the sheriff's contract, that's an extended contract. We just recently extended. We have almost another 7 years on it. And just as an FYI, the sheriff's office, those aren't things that those are standard rates they give everyone. So they don't negotiate individual contracts. They just do rate increases as per the county. So we don't really have to spend too much time on that until we get to the point where we need to redo an entire contract, which is quite a few years out. And then the next update is on Town Hall. I'm going to turn this one over to Steve because he ran point on most of it. I'm going to move this one over. We're going to have too many presentations.
Thanks, Kristen and Council. Before I start, I just want to preface that the way that we've managed a lot of these issues related to economic development is that we utilize the Economic Development Advisory Board as well as the P&Z. Same board, sometimes they have different roles and different functions, but we utilize that and create a work plan with all of these items, and then that's how we manage it. And obviously, we come back, and when there's things for approval or updates, we come back to council. We try to vet this stuff through an additional board as part of just making sure that we're staying on task. And so with the town hall, we were assigned for the initial due diligence of this, and I think it was really trying to figure out, do we want to do this, and how far, and if we do it, what we would like to do. And the responses came back that yes, we do want to look to do something, move forward with a restaurant anchor type project. And the next step, and we looked at some of the pricing and some of the costs in general that people have asked about, what the cost for relocation, for building, and I think we're at a place now with the due diligence where I would recommend we take the next step, moving forward, on more fiscal analysis as it relates to going with an anchored restaurant project, retail project, whether it's mixed use or a restaurant with some parking or however that works out. But take that to the next level and then have a small working group that can look at all the financials on it and then bring back more detailed due diligence and various different options that would work. And then bring that for further consideration for council on what the next step would be if we want to move forward on any particular option or consider multiple options.
So in looking at this, and you've been looking at it for quite a while, is there interest? Would there be interest in someone coming up and?
Yeah, there's interest, yeah.
From whom?
So there's been interest from developers to want to be able to do projects here. And it varies from different types of developers, what their interests are, but yes, there's interest. And including people who've already been successful here in doing, the Spanish Village, that same developer that came in and redeveloped that would be interested. We still continue to talk. There's some other property owners here that might have interest as well as outside interest. So, and then talking through with Amy and Heather, yeah, there's definitely an interest that could be generated here if we were to take something to market.
But what's it gonna cost?
That's why I'm asking you, so we take that to the next level to figure out what that cost is, so I can get you the information and get you the best information for those decisions. Yeah.
To relocate, we have to either buy or lease. So what's the cost of buying, leasing, renovating whatever we buy and lease?
Did you just give us a presentation on that?
Yeah, so there's
No numbers.
yeah, so I provided the presentation on what's yeah, so the cost to build, the cost to rent, potentially purchase was included in there. But these are generalized revenues and generalized costs, and what we need to do is get more specific and start getting more detailed analysis as far as really what does the revenue look like and how does it drill down to the type of development? Is there additional parking we'd like to create? What are the best opportunities for where we can locate the town hall? And so, talk with Colleen, we're going to go look at, if we would try to get a group to go look at the building over here on Bloody Basin and start looking at some of this real estate, trying to figure out what's going on with this building right across the way here. That's the next step. Before we start getting people all spun up, I just want to make sure that we're taking the steps necessary to make the decisions to move forward. And so it's a big project, it's a big decision. So we just want to make sure we take it step by step.
Yes, I think here what you're going to do is explore financial analysis.
Yep. Get you more detail.
As opposed to it says move forward. So someone might read this like, wow, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
But I think explore financial analysis is better said.
Yep.
Well, I don't think, if it's gonna cost us money, it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
That's just part of the analysis, yeah.
And that's not
So-
like,
We're looking at the end result, yeah.
Yeah.
And to steer it back to the budget, it will be a big part of the budget, right? So I think one of the things that we have to accept is that no matter what, this will not be moving forward in the next year. Because we would need to budget now if we intend to do anything like that. So this is the exploratory. This will help us set in motion if we need to do something for the next budget year to determine where we will be relocating city hall.
So it helps us make an intelligent decision.
It'll give us firmer, with the buildings around here, there may be need for retrofit because of technology and the integration of the technology. There's so many moving parts to it, so the idea is, let's get all those moving parts down on paper right now.
Yeah.
Let's get some costs associated with them. Even if we get costs in this calendar year, we know due to inflation, they'll be inflated by the time we get to budget next year.
or whatever, we have no idea what other properties will be available, things like
And
that.
so it's fluid, and we'll keep
Yeah.
moving. And so when you see that next step, that's what I'm proposing to kind of craft as far as what to put into the document. So the move forward is just the input I've received is to move forward with to the next step, but I would say that we need to look for a recommendation. So when we start looking at, that's what under the next steps, that's what's recommended to maybe put in the document.
Somewhere else in this package, it talks about the determining space needed.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd be part of all that, yeah.
An
You know,
actual needs
that's
assessment.
really not that difficult. The buildings that we're looking at, they generally will hire an architect to interview you guys to figure out what your needs are. They develop a space plan. The space plan goes to a tenant improvement contractor. They price that. Then they work it into a 5-year lease or whatever term we want. So the cost for us, that's not a big part.
I can work with CJ on that, it's something that's, sort of, what space needs are.
yeah, but it's in here somewhere.
So, you have council policy now?
Yep, I'll put that. So I'll change that to explore, and I will fix that town hall into a town hall.
So
Going
you have
forward.
some typo.
Yeah. The council policy manual. So, if you remember this one, it was to try and create some kind of guidelines, for, including council meetings. So I have some examples of manuals from local municipalities. They're not so much manuals as they are guidelines. Different places call these things different guidelines. You all have a council code of conduct, very similar. Other places have, council codes of conduct, council decorum protocol, council codes of ethics. Sometimes they have maybe 2 or 3 guiding documents for how they do business. I would recommend that we just take a look at those examples, and then have a discussion about what you'd like to do. But I think the best situation for us would most likely be to take that already existing council code of conduct, which the council previous had accepted by resolution, and do some updates and enhancements to that council code of conduct. That includes some of those pieces that include managing meetings and process, as opposed to just conduct of the council. We can add in the process for our outline of things.
So the responsibility for that says town council, so is this something where you would take all these other ones that you have, and we would have a workshop with council and go through all those and then pull something together?
Yes, very much so, Councilmember Brady. And having done this in Glendale before a couple of times, it is a process, and it's something that we need to gain consensus on before it goes to the public and meeting for comment. And something that we could do, we could start it by me getting you all examples, and then you reviewing those and giving feedback directly to me, not to each other, of course. And then I can condense that, and we can begin a more fluid discussion with all of you as to how we may want to enhance or expand, or if ultimately you decide to do a different kind of document, we can figure out how to do that.
Okay, so the next time it'll be up for signatures in January next year, in December.
Next year.
So we should have it done by then.
So is it really just that code of conduct document, or is it, from what we're talking about, it sounded like more encompassing of other things?
We have a code of conduct document that exists for the council here. We could use that, what I've called them in the past are council guidelines.
Okay, so then you could
So
expand
then
from
you
there.
could add in specific ethics codes, you could add in what you already have in the code of conduct, then you could add in meeting protocol, you could add in meeting decorum protocol. What we do with meeting decorum protocol is we then place that on the agenda. Like right now, we don't have any kind of protocol on the agenda, right? I've seen on other agendas in other municipalities where there's literally a statement the mayor reads at the beginning of the meeting that says, as a reminder, we treat each other civilly here. There'll be no, disrespecting the council staff or of each other in the audience. And please participate in a civil and courteous way. So, those are things we can figure out if we want to add in. And we can start that through this discussion. No one likes to have to do that because it's just like, you don't want to have to manage people, but the bottom line is that's why we end up with people like MCSO in the back of our meetings, because we don't ever want anything to move too far. And it's very hard to manage that from the dais.
So that's probably at 27.
Yes, I would like to do that into the 27th.
Should be done this calendar year, but it should be done in fiscal year 27.
Just make it quick now. Now, the next item is the transparency portal. That's kind of what it was called in the council, in our strategic plan. So last year, my first experience with the strategic plan was about a month after I got here. It's when you all approved it. So I wasn't exactly involved in the process. So now that I am, I can tell you about transparency portals and kind of where we can go with this. So we're gonna have to extend this one, and it's, you know, definitely could be something in place by the end of FY '27. This goes back to something I spoke to you all about at the budget workshops last year. It goes back to a records management system. The current records management system we use in Carefree is called Laserfiche. It's used valley-wide. I've used it in Glendale for many, many years. The problem that we have currently with Laserfiche is that it goes back to that garbage in, garbage out theory, right? So we have a system that hasn't been touched since probably 2018. We have multiple documents that need to be scanned in. We have documents in 3 or 4 different places that are the same documents that we need to determine which are the original signature documents, whether these files are complete. And these are all things that I consider public record. Let's start with agendas. Right now, the public can go online and find our agendas through Agenda Click dating back to August of 2023. They would have to go to the page where we have town code and click on these bars, and then you could see back to 2021. I could put every single agenda back to 2000 online using Laserfiche. Same thing with every single resolution, every single ordinance, the council, the incorporation documents for the town. All of these records that are archival. The problem is the system hasn't been used the way it needs to be used in the past 6 years, so we have to overhaul the system. The good news is generally there won't be a charge for that. The bad news, the time comes out of staff time. So as your clerk for the past year, this has been something that's been very much on my to-do list, just haven't been able to get done. And it's an overall bigger project. Some of you have heard me talk about the fact that I'm using ASU. I have an intern from the master's program. She's in the project management and data analytics master's program. She'll be graduating in June. This is her capstone project, to go in and review what we have in Laserfiche currently, to speak to our Laserfiche vendor, to go in through the manuals and the training portals that we have for Laserfiche, and outline a comprehensive plan for us as to how we can use this to create that transparency portal. So ultimately what happens is Laserfiche links to the website, and if I want to find a resolution from 2020, I go into the portal, the public records portal, and I type in, I need resolutions from 2020, and we'll pull up a whole list of resolutions from 2020. So we can determine what we want to serve the public. That will ultimately become what becomes the transparency portal.
So they'll be able to look for resolutions, agendas, minutes.
And more, ordinances, any of these, you know how we have so many plans, right? We have village redevelopment plan, we have general plan, we have strategic plan, all those plans will be in there. Anything that we produce in a council meeting will be accessible immediately, and you won't have to dig through an agenda to find it. You think, oh, I'm looking for the general plan's already online, it'd be an easy site, so that's not a good example. But it'll all be in one place, and it'll all be searchable, and it'll all be tabled, and this is the dream part of it. All we do is use the system. So it means when you complete, you scan in or you transfer in from another system, and it automatically uploads and goes in. So it doesn't require any kind of, ongoing human touch except the initial part.
How far back?
How far back could we go?
Yeah.
I really want to wait till I get that report
Okay.
before I determine it, and then we can talk about it. You don't want to overburden the system. The other thing is, the other thing that's happening with Laserfiche is the files that are in there right now, they haven't been dumped. So what happens is we're keeping records that we don't need to be keeping any longer, because we follow this state record retention schedule. So that's another huge part of this whole transparency thing. Right now, we have too many records. We haven't done an efficient purge, thank you, purge of documents. So I'm working hard to try and figure out how to do that. And our new town clerk this project will fall under our new town clerk, obviously, so. And most town clerks have the expertise in this, so it's a good thing. Plus the mail that is out is very helpful in this process for me as well.
So would the water company be involved in this as well?
No, because the water company is a quasi-government agency, so it would have to be a separate aspect.
But
We
do
can
they
certainly look-
use Laserbeak?
They do not.
They use file cabinets.
They do use file cabinets, but their agendas, I think we all are online to our agenda now. So,
It's not, it doesn't go over the town, though.
right. But we do have all our hard copy agendas, so we could certainly scan them in.
Well, it would probably be good to go back to at least the very beginning of the water consolidation project, so people can actually see what the process was to understand it, since that's not currently on there,
And those are agendas, so those would be easily put on there.
and presentations.
And those are already in Agenda Quick. So Agenda Quick will actually talk to Laserfish. So Agenda Quick, anything that we put in there that you see on your agendas automatically goes over the system. And these are pretty commonly used tools in the clerk's world. So it's just a matter, it's on our end more than anything, right? It's that cleanup we need to do.
So when the graduate student graduates in June, what's the expectation of what will be done? And then what will need to be done?
She'll prepare a detailed report as to what the current system does, what it needs to be doing, whether or not we can use AI, because AI is a component of the system that I can add on to help us clean up the system. And she'll give me kind of a roadmap to how we can get to where we want to go. The ultimate goal is to allow Laserfish to get on our website and then allow for that capability to search the relevant documents. Now, there are files in Laserfish that we would not have public access to, so you set it up based on what you want the public to access. So I will say it's the basic transparency portal, but it's more than we've ever had, and that's a positive. Right now in the market, you can actually go out and find vendors that are strictly doing transparency portals for you, designing them, correlated to your actual website. And again, that goes back to the even bigger picture, which is, I don't know enough about how we're hosting our website to determine what we kind of have to do. So that's part of Madison's goals for the coming year as well. And you'll see that further on in the presentation to really take a deep dive on the website. And
So
what
we
need
had
to do.
Tech for Life do that, didn't we, a few years ago?
Yes, we did. And what they did is they designed the system and then created, help with the creation of the pages. And there's a number of vendors out there that do that nowadays that doesn't specifically do it for municipalities. So that may be another option for us as well. And again, that would have a budgetary, that would affect our budget, so we would need to discuss that part of the budget.
So should we expect to have a budget line item for fiscal year 27 to post all this stuff?
I don't think we're there yet. I think that this will have to be included in our fiscal year 28 because I'll have a much bigger picture of the overall costs. We're talking about a number of systems, right? So adding SmartGov in, so we start with the website. Then we want Laserfish to talk to the website. We want Granicus SmartGov to talk to the website. There may be other things that come up during this process. Like for example, Tyler, which is the new technology we're implementing for the financial system. There's also things that I can use from Tyler that can go on the website as well. That's called ERP Pro. So I think we need to look at it as a holistic instead of just an individual. Right now, we have the minimum on there on our website for transparency purposes, but we have everything available. So part of it is I saw that when you guys did the website changeover, we only went back to 2021 on putting the agendas up, but we have all the agendas dating back to really the start of town, minutes as well. So we have the data, it's just how do we host it, and then from a website perspective, how much can we actually put on the website that we are using right now?
So we say anticipated completion FY 27.
Well, it was 26, so she said move to
I'm
28.
saying that we take it to, we literally start the project now, because I anticipate this to get to your project. Right? So start the project now. I would say by the end of fiscal year 27, which is June 30th of 2027, we could have some of these pieces in place. But the starting point really is the website. So that's where we're gonna start, and then kind of do all those other things at the same time. Get this Laserfish thing, once she gives us the report, it's us, it's the staff that actually, it's gonna be Samantha, the new town clerk, myself, if I can find, time to help as well, to kind of get through that system and weed out what's in there and put in what needs to be in there. For example, Sam, just recently, there's 3 binders this thick of resolutions dating back to, 1985, right? So all of those have to be scanned in order to be added to the system. The most recent ones are in there, obviously. So those are things that we need to just do. And this is not unusual. I mean, I have seen this occur in many of even the large cities. It's just records management is always something that we do last. And really, if we did it first, it would make our jobs so much easier. And I think that's what when we hire a new town clerk, that's gonna be one of the things we look for, somebody who understands that.
Are we gonna start retaining plan submittals? Is that
Oh,
a
we are,
different, is that a different software?
No, it's through the grant, it's through the Smart Gov. So right now, everybody, we no longer take paper submittals. So every planning case, every building permit, every short-term rental license, business license, it's all electronic.
Great.
And that'll be the same thing with that system. Based on the state retention guidelines, we've set up rules in the system that will allow the system to automatically purge when it's appropriate time for documents. Laserfish does that for us as well, but we didn't use those parameters. So we ended up with years and years of compiled documents. So the system does so much more than we're using it for. And this also for granted, because I know we recently talked about that. How do we determine how to retain? Can we set those guidelines? So Sam and Stacy had already been all over that.
Okay.
Any other questions? We'll go on to the next slide, which we will begin our community development updates, and that will be Stacy. Stacy will be giving updates on planning and zoning, building, and code compliance.
Thank you. Well, in terms of what is in the strategic plan that was commencing for the fiscal year 26 is a zoning ordinance update and citizen participation update, as well as rolling into fiscal year 27. So, in general, we all know that we're looking to update the zoning ordinance. It was, I think, last overhaul was in 2004, so I think 22 years is probably the limit that we should go until we update. I want to do a little sooner next time. But not to say that we haven't been keeping up with the zoning ordinance, but we would kind of address things as needed. And I think now it's time to not only cohesively look at all of this information, but also to look to compliance and things that are happening at the regulatory level that we need to include and we need to update. And so when I say modernize, I don't mean, it's not as stylish, it's about being relevant and current. Like, for example, our lighting ordinance. Our lighting ordinance goes back to where we talk about 25 watt bulbs. So, it's that kind of that type of modernization. But one thing I also say about the zoning ordinance or a lot of our regulatory documents is that if it's not broken, I don't think we need to fix it. So it's not like everything has to change in the zoning ordinance. Because I think, and I agree, there's somewhat of that concern is that I don't think we want to see things change dramatically in terms of maybe, lot development and things like that. I think it's more of a fine tuning and being more ready to be current and compliant. We've hired Michael Baker International, and we approved their contract back in October 25. And so they have been working. We have had conversations for one, they actually presented to both you and to P&Z, the public participation plan, which I like to say is not a requirement to have adopted like it was in the general plan, but I just like the idea that you, the residents, the town knows what we're doing and how we'll be doing it, and so that they know that there's opportunities to reach out. Since the contract was approved, they have been working with staff. We've been going through our project goals, developing the schedule, and beginning to identify the general areas of concern and things that we want to bring forward and update. That in the contract was called the project orientation aspect and code analysis, and so those kind of things have been happening and are ongoing. We've also selected our zoning ordinance advisory group. We keep going between advisory group and stakeholder group. We'll land on that, I think, when we get together. And those meetings will start to happen in late April. We'll have our first stakeholder group meeting in late April, and the first community workshop in late April as well. So we have actually created, there is a schedule. Matt just prepared that and sent that for our meeting today. So I also have days. So the way it's going to work, in which he has found is most successful, he's just wrapping up Maricopa County now, of course, he's been working with Paradise Valley, is get the work done up front, have us do the work behind the information, then bring it forward, and then have the discussion of, I like this, I don't like this, if you think about this, you do it like that. So, so when it first comes to planning and zoning, and then town council will be in July. So, if you're wondering what's going on, there are things going on, but that's when we'll be moving forward. But I will try to give planning and zoning updates, and I'm happy to give council updates up until that time, as to if there is a desire to come through some things that are going on.
Stacy, you had said, you talked about like the lighting kind of guidelines, but I noticed in our strategic plan, the zoning ordinance was fiscal year 26. Signage and lighting was 27, and same with design guidelines. But are you going to be able to incorporate lighting within the zoning ordinance, so that will actually be tied in there earlier?
Yeah, I think the lighting and signage updates were more about design guidelines, not necessarily incorporated into zoning.
So they're two different things.
They're different, yeah, it's kind of more like along kind of it kind of more aligns with sort of the design guidelines in general. It can talk about different types of signage we want to see, how we can, sort of encourage people to.
But that's a separate process that we're going to tackle like a whole year later.
Yeah.
So anybody that wants to come in and develop prior to that.
Well, we're going to be hitting it at the regulatory level, but if you want to take it to a level of what the town expects to see, sort of as it kind of relates to the positioning plan of the quality, things like that, that's what I believe that project was about. And same holds true for signage. I think a lot of that too is more tied to town center than town-wide.
Yes.
And I think that's probably why it kind of aligns later on, although the overlay was 28, but I think it aligns with some other things that are kind of more focused on town center as well. So it is anticipated to conclude in the fiscal year 27, and the calendar basically has it at March of 2028 is when Matt and Lisa will be able to wrap this up. And so
2028 or 2027?
it will be the beginning of the fiscal year thing throws me off. So we're continuing through fiscal year 27, which includes the beginning of 2028. So it will conclude, adopted in calendar year 28.
The zoning ordinance.
Zoning ordinance and the citizen participation ordinance, together.
Okay, so they both said fiscal year 26, so they're not going to be done by then. They're actually going to be delayed a year.
Well, I thought we were starting in 26.
Okay, so this time, because it says time frame completion date. It doesn't say start date, so I'm just confused.
Right, I thought, and it was I remember that conversation last year, and there was a lot coming at planning and zoning. But I think the idea was, I thought it was starting. I know it says completion date, but I think that it needed to sort of carry over in terms of, because it wasn't going to happen in just one fiscal year. We knew it was going to.
I just think they need to agree. If it's completion date, we need to change the years, and if it's not, then it's the start date.
But it's completion of fiscal year 27. It's just calendar year 28. It's fiscal year 27.
So we need to change that from the FY 26.
To 27.
That's why we do an update.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to make sure that we're okay.
Yeah, let's do that. And that gives the project literally until June 30th.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back as to why, because we knew that it was going to be 18 to 24 month process.
Yeah, so it would have been June of 2027.
I think we began in fiscal year 26, the process, but yeah, it sounds like the date might be.
And depending on how it was discussed, because it wasn't at the initial discussions, it would make sense. The startup would have taken at least 6 months, right? right? Because that, get the vendor on board, begin the investigation and determine, so, yeah. Sounds like we're in a good timeline, so anticipation, June 30th of 2027.
Okay, so then the
Completion?
design guidelines and the other ones, we're thinking
No.
That's
they'll
what I'm saying.
start 27, but they're really gonna be 28.
Well, I think
But
there's
let's-
gonna be
let's-
overlap.
Let's
Okay.
figure, yeah, I think that overlap is there, but let's just talk about the zoning ordinance. So do you anticipate that being done in the calendar year of 2027? Take the fiscal years out of it, we use that for budgeting more than anything else. So calendar year 2027.
28, March of 2028 is the
Okay, so that's almost a full 2 years from the current date.
And that's for this project with Michael Baker's gonna take 2 years.
Well, yes, since October, right?
So I want to get into the detail
And this,
of point size letters and.
right, well, I think, I think this is just maybe this is what happens with some of these plans, is that, we hire a consultant, we anticipate something takes a year, and he says it takes a year and a half.
Okay, so then we were just saying completed June of 27, but really it's not, it's
Really,
March of
should say
28.
March 20, yeah, so it's gonna be by year end, fiscal year end 2028.
Fiscal, no,
Just count.
calendar year.
June 30th of 2028 is fiscal year end.
Right. March of 2028.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
March
fiscal
20.
year.
I'm just putting
June.
March 28. Okay.
That gives you the month there, but I'll put it in your plan as FY 28 completion, which is on target with the March of 2020.
Yes, yes.
You're not the only one who did that, FY.
Well, I remember, I know I had a problem with this when we did the strategic plan, getting the fiscal year correct. But again, I think it goes back to not knowing that. I think we thought it would be a year process from a consultant perspective, or it is going to be longer. So we do have the schedule. We have a web page, so we're talking about next steps. The web page is in progress. Madison does all the information from our consultant. We've got the advisory group squared away. We'll probably have an introduction before we actually have our first working group happening, but we do have those people in place. It's a good group. It's a varied group. I think it was important for us to be sure we were picking people that didn't have personal vested interests. We wanted to be sure that they had Carefree, the community's vested interest at heart. But we've got a good variety of people. Some people we don't know, but I think that might be a good thing. So we're going through the process, looking at conflicts and aligning with state law and other applicable policies, and looking at some of the, again, other information that's vague or outdated. And so we'll continue that collaboration with the zoning ordinance advisory group to update the process throughout. And so that's how we're going to move ahead and get this project underway. Any other questions about that?
We're just talking about that, we haven't gone to the other ones yet.
So yeah,
Because we're not talking about the design guidelines and sign.
no, we're not, yeah, whatever. When you all want to talk about when you want to get those things done, I think that's later.
Colleen, and the design guidelines are due for FY 27.
Yes, that's why I'm thinking.
So yeah, we'll finish the updates and then we'll hit all the FY 27 stuff. You guys can discuss in detail how you want to move forward with FY 27.
So on 26.
But I think what's interesting that we'll find, and what I'm finding interesting about what we sort of outline as we're talking it through, is I think these processes are much more involved than I think anticipated initially. Sometimes we think a year is enough to get something done, and sometimes it might be if it's a more isolated project, like signage and lighting. I think that's pretty contained. But something like a zoning ordinance update, or even design guidelines that are going to apply community-wide, those kind of efforts, particularly when you want to have an engaged public, take a little bit longer than I think you'd like it to, and what something we predict. So yeah. So any other questions? Okay. I think am I the next slide? Yes. I don't see we can click it forward. Sorry. That's okay. I could blink my eye. I was blinking my eyes, but it was on there. So. In the strategic plan, actually under economic development, the goal was to create a code enforcement policy. And as we, and I think Steve began that process in the sense that you're kind of the boots on the ground with the businesses. You kind of know what's going on in town center. So I think that's kind of where this sort of grew from, is that trying to bring it then into planning and zoning and code enforcement, because a lot of what's out there, what might not be complying with our use requirements or business license requirements, there was a disconnect between if somebody did start a business, one, getting the business license, but getting what we call certificate of occupancy, because that way we know that the space is safe and that we know the user and who the user is, so that complies all around with kind of our town goals, right? And what we want to see in not just town center, but in all of our businesses.
And part of it was the process piece of it too. Like, so when things come into the town, your business or whatever you're doing, it has to go through a process of review and approval. And that review and approval is going to various different places. It starts in P&Q through, the front desk, but then it really kind of goes to code enforcement. And what we were finding is that not all of these approvals and things were actually happening from those who probably should be approving uses. And so it was just kind of pulling it all together, particularly since we also work with Rural Metro, who's not really part of the town, but they have a big part of code compliance when it comes to the fire code. And they're the boots on the ground in every business every week. Ryan's out there doing that. And so it was just trying to bring all of that together to get all of the collective information and knowledge about all those things. And so that's kind of where it started with, as far as getting a group together.
Right.
But then from there, it was like, then how do you?
Then we had to manage it all, and so we
Yep.
so we decided to have an in-house regular meeting. Started once a week, now we're sort of every other week, and just going through the whole list of issues of non-compliance. And it seems sometimes to focus on commercial. It's not just the commercial aspect of things. We've all heard about the issues with signage, the issues with some of the uses that are in some of our commercial buildings that aren't aligned with our zoning ordinance. But we have residential permits. We have people doing work without permits, from a small single-family lot to a new subdivision. And so, as we sat down and started to talk about this, we realized it's not that we needed to create a policy, because the policy really is town code and the zoning ordinance. It's all outlined in those regulatory documents. That's the policy we follow. We enforce what's in those codes. So we decided it was more about having a procedural approach, procedures that we consistently followed, so that you didn't have one person saying, how come he gets 30 days and how come he gets 45 days? And, the idea really is that we want people to come into compliance. I think that there's sort of a feeling out there that we're just going after people, and it's not. It's not. It's all about trying to work with those to have them come into compliance. And for example, signage. I get it. There's a concern about the impacts of some of the zoning violation penalties as it pertains to the type of violation, the type of commercial violation. But I just want to bring this example forward, because we've heard about the temporary signs and how a couple of those basically went all the way to the courts. First of all, staff has nothing to do with identifying what the penalty should be. We outline what the offense is, we outline what what would be needed to rectify the violation, and then we outline what the penalties are. It goes to the prosecutor.
Penalties come from the town code.
Pardon? And all stems from the town code, absolutely. So that's all identified in the town code. And speaking of the zoning ordinance update, I mean, that is something that we can look at, right? I think we've kind of learned through this process is that, yeah, some violations probably don't need to rise to the occasion of a criminal offense. But I will tell you, it's a pretty strong hammer when there's other people that are really hard to bring into compliance. So I think we have to have that discussion and that balance. But like Cactus Flowers, for example, we notified them on several occasions to come into compliance. So and we didn't get any response. So that's when the town has to finally say somebody else has to go in and bring this forward, because while it seems like a temporary sign might be something minor, I think in our town it's really important. We want our businesses to be beautiful, to look quality, and when somebody just has a banner as their permanent sign when they're next to these other businesses that have really beautiful signs, it's important in my opinion and in my mind, because I believe that's one of the the values of we want to have beautiful, vibrant commercial businesses. But like I said, I think we have to look at our ordinance and our violations and our penalties and see how those can maybe align better. We've obviously heard that there's some concern about some intervals who have been handed.
Well, I think it's sad because people don't realize that it's very rare that we have to do that. Because what they don't see is that probably 90-something% of people comply either with the verbal discussion, and a lot of times you're the one doing the verbal. And then when they don't comply with the 2 or 3 verbals, then we go to the
letter.
written, and if they don't comply with the 2 or 3 written, then you really have no choice. So to think that we're just going out there dropping bombs on people is just a narrative designed to be.
Well, and
It's kind of sad though with Cactus Flowers, they have nothing.
They want to put a sign.
I know, they have nothing, they have no signs, they have nothing, so you just go by it and you're like, well, what is that? You just have no way of
Their
knowing.
Scottsdale store has a.
Well, and Cactus Flowers is pretty, you see their vans that drive around, so they're, I guess they must be franchises, but they're pretty big with nice signs, I don't know.
So the update to the, whatever we call it here, the town code.
So we created procedures, so like when, so,
Regarding penalties and so forth, that will be updated.
right,
Next fiscal year.
well, the penalties will tie into the zoning ordinance update, but what we developed was the procedures, like you said, the verbal, the letters. Basically, we define these procedures as, here's your first letter. We've kind of limited it to, these are the steps, and after these 4 steps, then you have to move it forward to the courts. And so, and it's true, there's a lot of violations that people do come into compliance. And people have had issues where we say 30 days and they come in on day 21, they're like, I need 3 more weeks. We're happy to do that as long as we can see that somebody is moving towards rectifying the situation. So, so a lot of it too is, talking about policy or something in black and white. We kind of go back and forth on how to make that information more public in the sense that a lot of times it is case by case, and a lot of times the prosecutor determines how something might move forward in terms of, coordination with the judge and things like that. So we're trying to we just want people to come into compliance. It saves us a lot of time and effort if they do.
Yeah, there's some crossover,
Okay.
right, where it goes over from an administrative thing to it's more legal. And one of the things that the process.
Can I say something? Sorry to be a process person here, but we're in a strategic planning update. We're now talking about very specific processes relevant to code compliance, relevant to ordinance updates. So I just want to caution us, right? That's not agendized, right? So I know it's part of the update for this, but are there any specific questions from the council about the actual next steps for this?
Yeah,
Why
so
think it's done?
So that's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say my biggest point was because the strategic plan outlined the policy to be created. We did not create a policy. We did not need to create a policy, but we did create procedures to help us be more consistent in there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe that's all I need to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the recommendations on the other side is because the court came back and asked.
Okay, and that's where I'm going to say that's totally off strategic plan.
Well, no, we're actually.
But I think the thing is, the next steps are pretty clear. We need to update our penalties.
I think we've heard it
For
from
sure.
through the
Right.
community.
That'll be done
Penalties need to
in
match
the
the
planning
violation.
zoning thing.
The
I would
outcome-
argue if there's an opportunity to do it any sooner,
Yeah.
but, okay,
The outcome
we're
of
gonna
those
leave it
recent
as,
processes has determined these next steps for us.
exactly. Okay,
But I think that's all I have for that, for code enforcement.
But I just want to say it's a great way for staff from a collaborative perspective. It really kind of broke down a lot of silos inside the organization, which really allowed us all to work collaboratively together on how to be able to resolve these problems and how to deal with these things. And I think we're all in a better place as a staff and as an organization for it. So.
And we'll continue that momentum.
All right.
Yep. We can check that one off.
Yeah.
We definitely check that one off.
CJ's going to give us some engineering and public works updates.
Let's just go for it.
Oh my gosh.
Here we go.
Now he is.
So yeah, well, I'm a little reticent about speaking to the first bullet item, the town center circulation plan, because it has kind
coded history to it, and that it's not fundamentally a public works initiative. I think it almost steals the thunder of economic development and planning, who've been working on it for a number of years. And this goes back at least to 2021 with Stacy and Steve hammering out a vision that has been working through the consulting process. It appears here to highlight that it is a multi-year process that does have a tendency or a potential to spin off capital projects. I think you're going to be, if I'm not mistaken, considering finalization of the long-standing circulation plan that's been in the works since at least 2022 by Kim Horn. Multi-year process. It spells out, or has spelled out several alternatives for on-street parking potentially on arterials, as well as some elements within the town center. Some of the next steps that you see highlighted here are merely some discussion items I had recently with Steve. I'm not sure if they're actually in the circulation plan itself, but so these items are pending the finalization of the plan. I want to highlight that, because this will come up later too when we talk about streetscapes, I think a bit. This is dependent upon a design process. So even though the circulation plan has been long-standing, the circulation plan budget is hefty. It envisions a $12 million expenditure, of which about 10% of that, almost $1 million, would be a design process. We have not embarked on that. So I'm reluctant to highlight this as something that is ready to go, ready to roll as a series of capital projects. But these are some of the items that might appear in the near future in budget requests, for instance. So bear that in mind. The second item, the culvert repair plan, is something that's much more immediate. We've all been involved in this very recently. So we recently obtained, after authorizing the Cohen Van Loo CDL, the designer incidentally on our on the Carefree Water Company's Silver Saddle Pressure Zone Improvement Project pipeline, $1 million drop there, to undertake an inventory, the first ever inventory of our culverts. We have 200 plus of them. There's about 230 of them in various states of repair. This was the first inventory using GPS and photographs and actually boots on the ground, seeing what these culverts look like since the Flood Control District of Maricopa County put together in 2003 the Carefree Drainage Master Center, which is the Bible of all our washes, culverts, and everything. So very revealing first look at where our maintenance needs would be, which is in turn a first look at what our unfunded obligations are in the repair and maintenance of these critical pieces of infrastructure. We've known about one of those, and you all had a deep dive into it at your most recent meeting earlier this month, when you authorized the intergovernmental agreement with the Flood Control District of Maricopa County for the whitewash at Leisure Lane culvert. About a $426,000 project, 75-25 match districts in the town. So we're definitely getting some traction. We're definitely moving through our backlog of not just understanding what our liabilities or obligations are with culverts, but actually tackling some meaningful repair and remediation. Next slide.
So we have the inventories done. So our takeaway from that, are there any in dire conditions, or?
I hesitate to say that they're, I would say that the most alarming about them that I've seen, there are some that have been lost.
It was filled in.
Yeah, so they don't function anymore. And Leisure Lane is one of them. That's just.
Leisure Lane is the biggest problem, so that,
Absolutely.
which is great to get that done.
There are some smaller ones that
Yeah.
also probably aren't as impactful as Leisure Lane, but we will want to do what we can to recover those facilities.
But you do have the inventory, so going forward, you can make the
Oh,
appropriate.
yeah. It'll be a very, very useful thing for the foreseeable future. We do have a little bit of a bottleneck in terms of budget. $426,000 project with whitewash and Leisure Lane, that will be a fiscal 27 project. I don't know what in fact I have another call with our consultant at CDL week after next about maybe some next steps that we consider these other projects in terms of maybe putting together what some potential costs and liabilities might be in those. But that might be, because maybe even it's something we can look at has been a very helpful part.
It's the cross street there.
I don't even know if that, is that even?
Yeah,
I don't
don't
know.
even, but yeah.
No.
That's
Believe me.
Some other place, trust me.
That's a-
It's very green. No, anyway.
And we're not building.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that one out.
This is a, like, 8-lane
Yeah.
highway.
And CJ, that was a big project to oversee, so thank you very much for,
Yeah, happy to do it.
for moving that along and getting that done.
So on, speaking of big projects, you know, I stood at the corner of the intersection of Pima Road and Cave Creek not long ago with Kristen to brainstorm what this might look like and envisioning a potential roundabout. This is a substantial project, not just because it's huge. The price tag on it currently, calendar year 2026, is about $16 million. Imagine that going up by about $700,000 or $800,000 each year if you wait to build it, because that's what's happening with construction prices. But it's out of our hands. It's a multi-agency project. So if it does come to pass, the improvement of Pima Road from, I think it's Dixaletta, I forget where the southern.
It's Dixon.
Dixaletta all the way up to Cave Creek Road.
Yeah.
So almost 5 miles of roadway, the vast majority of which is in the city of Scottsdale. City of Scottsdale is our project partner. Our project, you don't always get to choose your dance partner in various things in life, and this is the case with that. Scottsdale has very different priorities. They envision the eastern side of Pima Road, their obligations, their segment of the eastern side of Pima Road to be largely funded by whoever ends up being their dance partner to develop that piece of state land. So they have been very reticent about committing to a schedule with us using Prop 400 MAG monies to move the project forward at this time. They have competing political imperatives within the city of Scottsdale. So even if we're ready to go and aligned with allocations from MAG under Prop 400, we're kind of waiting to see where it may go.
So is that thought, because I know that he was kind of agreeable when Mag did the presentation, like, okay, if we're ready, could we start on our end? But if Scottsdale is gonna wait for this developer, they're not gonna want us to develop that, to not be connected
Right.
to anything.
Right. It
So
really
we have to
does. It has to harmonize. It has to be the same distance cross section from south to north. One of the ideas that most recently has been floated by MAG is the potential of stepping outside of the Prop 400 and federalizing the project. I hear that and I get heartburn right away because we already have the money allocated, and I don't want to give up money that's already been in people's minds anyway, regionally attributed to Carefree. And then secondly, federalizing in this day and age, a lot of contingencies happen with shutdowns and whatnot, and reallocations of money at the federal level. So we'll see how it shakes out. But we're kind of a gnat on the back of an elephant when it comes to this project.
Well, at least we did the temporary lighted stop sign, right?
Yeah.
For now.
So yeah,
We'll follow this closely. I mean, this is going to be a very, very long-term project.
Yeah.
For everyone involved. This might outlive a lot of us even.
Yeah.
As we've seen what's happened in the valley, right? So,
yeah, significant project.
and of course, it'll have budget implications as well going forward, so.
Yeah, particularly, you know, not to get in the weeds, federalizing the project would raise the cost, at least the upfront cost. And the cost is so high, you have to grab a very careful, thoroughgoing analysis that we are well within our expenditure limit. Because if it all hits in one fiscal year, we might have some costs.
Yeah, okay.
The final bottom, East Carefree pavement replacement.
Oh, wait, sorry. So should we, because we had this as fiscal year 26,
Well, okay.
it almost needs to probably
It's a
come off.
multi-year one, so, you know, I think we should multi-year this one. This should stay on the plan forever.
Okay, so it should just say multi-year instead
Yeah.
of fiscal year.
We just need to keep this one knowing fully, based on this discussion, that this will probably be in the strategic plan 10 years from now as well.
So there's just a last asterisk on this, fiscal 26 update on this. The Pima Road corridor study has been completed
Okay.
by MAG.
Right.
Just recently. In fact, I sit on the Transportation Review Committee, which is the lowest rung of the ladder of the committee process, and it went before us in February. next goes to the, I think, the
But
management council.
Okay, the
Went to
study's
the
done.
management-
Actually, it's already gone to the regional.
Oh,
They went to management council yesterday and they voted on it.
okay, so it's rolling.
yeah.
It's rolling.
It's rolling through.
So that's good. I mean, at least we're monumenting. This is a significant study in its own right. MAG paid for the study, $700,000, Kim Horn. So we have that to hang our hat on as mission accomplished at least. So we'll get there. East Carefree pavement replacement projects, also multi-year in that it will span both last year, fiscal 26, and this current, fiscal 26, which was last fall. We paved roughly 5 miles of centerline road within Rolling Hills, Carefree Rolling Hills, and Carefree Shadows. We have 61 centerline miles of road, so that was almost 8 or 9% of our road network in that one project, $1.6 million. Carefree 4 and 4 More are the next oldest original streets. That's the neighborhood north of the golf course. Pretty ratty looking if you go on some of those streets, showing their age. Foursome Way, for instance, rough. So that would be a nice project. It's a smaller project than what we tackled this year. So that proceeds apace. That might well be the last significant mill and overlay project under our current approach. You might recall that we maintain and publish on our website a pavement preservation plan that's updated every 5 years. It was last updated in 22. So we would want to update that following this latest project this fall, if you authorize it. We would, in early 27, calendar year 27, engage a consultant similar to what they did in the past to update the recipe for treating, inventorying the conditions of our streets going forward, taking advantage of out of the treatments we've done the past 5 years' work. What should we prioritize and how should we prioritize for the next 5 years? And then that would feed into the next capital improvement program update. So that's how pavement stands. That's all I have.
We're gonna move on to, or did any other questions for CJ?
I have a quick comment.
I did, oh.
Yeah, it's just, so I know we have these items in the strategic plan, and these are real specific to what's also in the capital improvement plan. How does that fit together? I mean, are these things that should be in a strategic plan, or is this sufficiently things that are in a capital improvement plan that you provide updates on as we look to update the strategic plan?
I would argue it should be in both.
In both, okay, cool. I wanted to ask the question.
Like a lot of things that we talk about today should be in a budget or in a capital improvement plan or somewhere else. If we're going to execute to what we're talking about,
Yeah.
it should pop up in there.
Yeah, okay.
Before you go on, and I really apologize, I think the numbers are really small, but the zoning ordinance update will finish March of 27, not 28. So it is on track based on the strategic plan.
Oh, so it's, okay, well, that's,
So
It was the fiscal year.
March of
27.
27.
Okay, we're in good shape. Okay,
Sorry about that.
we'll make sure we fix that. All
Yeah,
that.
we'll-
It was,
To give yourself-
it was bothering
me the whole
To
time.
give us some wiggle room,
Fine.
I'd like to say that
Really?
June 30th of 2027 will be completed.
But you all were really accepting of that, I appreciate that, so.
Well, we thought you were gonna do that, the,
Well, there's a lot going on.
The zoning overlay, what was the other one?
There's a good long list of them.
Yeah, we're still gonna come back.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
Okay, Steve's gonna give us some updates on the economic development pieces. And then we'll move forward with just some of the staff recommendations so that you guys can begin your overall discussion as to what you wanna do in the plan and look at the actual plan.
and you were saying we were gonna come back to some of the later years of things.
That's right, we'll look through all that, see what's coming up for FY 27, okay, and 28, and then, so just to let you know where we kind of are in the process.
So just a quick question then, the updating the citizen participation ordinance, Stacy, is that with zoning? Okay, so that's tied with zoning. That's combined with zoning, okay. Okay, Steve.
So facade program, we spent a lot of time talking about it, it's completed. We did receive applications throughout the year, and some of those moved pretty far along, and for some reason, one reason or another, some of them have fallen out. We're still actively working on one right now with the Hampton folks across the street. And there's interest from others to participate. And, it's the first year we're rolling it out, and we started in August, September timeframe. There's a need for businesses to contribute. So they have to have projects that they're really ready, and they have to have funds and wanting to do that. And so, I know people are asking, like, well, why hasn't there been a project that's been funded yet? And I'm just trying to give you a little bit of an explanation as to where we're at. And so, but the nice thing about it is it's been received very well. So the business community just likes to see that we're actually providing some kind of assistance and benefit that could help and assist to make the facades better in the town center. And not only that, but you heard from the position analysis from Amy and Heather, having these kinds of things is important when you're out there marketing to a broader investment community or tenants are coming to look in saying, look, town's in it to win it. They're willing to put skin in the game. They're willing to solve some of their own problems. And so it's very positive. So the next steps is we'll just continue to keep marketing the program. We're going to put it back in the budget this year, same amount of money. My feeling is that a lot of the projects will happen in the summertime anyhow, because I don't think people want disruption in their businesses during the prime time of the year. And so some of the ones that I think have interest will probably be coming back pretty quick here, to go to that next quarter and do those projects when it's not so nice out.
So could you possibly say like the top 5 potential, like there's Spanish Village, that had shown interest.
Yeah.
The Athens had shown interest.
Yeah, so they all still have interest between Spanish Village, 100 Easy Street,
Okay, Athens.
and Athens on Easy has reached out and said they're interested.
And Hampton, yeah. So that's
And Hampton, so that's 4, yeah. Yeah, so, and then we've also had a brief conversation, there's gonna be some improvements that are gonna Carefree Plaza, so we provided the information for the program, and they're aware of it. For the new one, there's Wadsworth that's over there, and I talked to them. And they're looking to do some pavement improvements and some curbing improvements. This is the parking lot, because I think that's part of the lease renewal with Giordano's. But that building is in serious need of some repainting and some freshening and fixing up and needing some alleyway work, and so we'll work with them to see if there's an opportunity to get that done as well. Any other questions on the subject?
No.
Comprehensive circulation and parking plan. So I just got the confirmation from Kim and Warren today that they're gonna have us the final document based on the edits that Stacy and I provided, the final edits.
Where is that on here? On our strategic plan, which category? Did you guys see it? I'm just curious. I was trying to find it when I saw it on your thing, so.
Is it not in the,
I think it's under.
it's on my work plan, so I just,
Circulation. There we go, town center circulation.
It's under infrastructure.
okay.
Are you,
Oh, when it would go to CIP.
That's why it kind of got mixed up with, I think, with what CJ was putting together. So Stacy, this is something that Stacy and I have been working on collaboratively, and CJ's been a part of it. And so it's one of those projects where we're coming to the completion here. They said they're going to have a final document to us this Friday. I am really hoping to get this done April and May of this year and just get it out. We've already talked about it to death. And so that is the goal. So we'll take it to P&Z first, and we'll take it to the town council for final approval. And again, there's a big dollar amount that gets associated with this. It's planned. It's the big picture. And then what we'll need to do is just, from what CJ was looking at, we got to start putting the pieces in place, start looking at our budget, start looking at the capital improvement plan, and start prioritizing what we'll call maybe some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the obvious things that we need to do that need to be fixed, whether it's a little walkway here or fixing something that connects into a crosswalk that just makes it easier for residents when they cross the street to be able to walk into the town center. And so those are the things that we'll start to prioritize. So the ones you saw up there were some of the low-hanging fruit, but that hasn't been decided yet, and we'll just need to figure out how that gets included into the budget. And then we'll start, the other one in there is that as part of that plan, we'll have to start figuring out how to look at some of the bigger picture design issues. And again, this is more something we'll talk about with CJ, because he's got a lot going on. But if you recall in the plan, there's more work to be done as it relates to the entries into the town at the major intersections, Bloody Basin and Cape Creek Road, Tom Darlington and Cape Creek, and then Bloody Basin and Tom Darlington. And so the next recommendations will be how do we take the things into the plan, and particularly those, and start examining that from a traffic perspective. Because when we were talking with the stakeholders, that was something that was really brought up a lot, was making sure that we can mitigate traffic coming in and slow it down. And so that's a next step item that we're recommending. And then what we'll have to do is take all this and codify it as part of the Village Center redevelopment plan, because that's where this came out of. And so as we look at the redevelopment plan, what we try to do is when we complete a plan or some kind of information or document that was part of that, we make it a body of work with the redevelopment plan, so everything is put together. So it'll become like an appendix to that. And so when somebody's looking for information, say a developer, they can see all the pieces, and they can see that this piece was scheduled to be done, and we did it, and we completed it, and here's the results. And so it just shows action orientation, and then it all keeps things in place. So that's what I have. Any questions?
So you're gonna have the final plan tomorrow?
That's what they said. That is what the email says.
The next one is build out analysis, and
That's me.
yeah, it is you, but I wanted to clarify, a build out plan, review current build out plan for commercial sector to maximize town sales tax revenue. That is what the item is. Right?
Yeah. So the plan it was listed as a plan. What it is it's an ongoing analysis and an ongoing discussion of looking at what our total build out capacity was from a commercial perspective. And it's taking all the various economic opportunities, and we've talked about this before. And typically we go through this every year, and we've done the Peter show and Steve show, and then last year we added Sharon in, and we did the whole kind of update. And we didn't do it this year because there's been some transition, and so. But I can still update that, and what I try to do is look at what that build up looks like in any given year, and then try to put some kind of projection of when that revenue can potentially come in. But we all know it's like herding cats to get some of these projects done. But we continue to move forward, try to keep us at least understanding what the overall revenue outcome is for the town. Like what's our ultimate capacity and what's reasonable at any given time, so it helps with the budgeting process. So that's what we've been doing, and we'll just continue to work on these things that we've outlined with working with getting Careful Quarter done, and then stuff that we're working on at Town Center. And the other thing I'll put in there, and it's also, and that was just something that Lon would bring up if he was here, is making sure that we get these empty spaces filled, right? That's a big part of it as well.
So that's our CVS
And the ACE, yeah.
and the Ace Hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on that?
All right, I'm not going to go too deep into this because we just got really deep into this at a council meeting, so I can save us time today. So the next steps really, and I hope everybody's had a chance to look at this. I just want to let you know that it has been shared in the community and with some of the key stakeholders that own property within the town center area and that run businesses here. And this analysis was actually received very well. There's a lot of optimism that has been derived from communications I've had with some of the property owners who've actually taken the time to read it. And they think it's really good, and it's kind of the direction the town should be heading. And so what I want to do is just take the next steps that were outlined in there and really start working towards the promotional plan. And so when we've talked about economic development or how marketing works, just the 4 Ps, and we've spent a lot of time on product development. We just did positioning, and now it's all about really taking that information, all the work we've done, start capitalizing on that product development that we've done. We understand where we're headed and what we want to accomplish from a retail perspective. Now, how is it that we put a really solid, targeted, and thoughtful promotional strategy together that looks at not only passive marketing, but also active outreach going into the business community, whether it's developers or investors or brokers and tenants that were specific to what we want to do. And so I just wanted to let you know that's something that work really closely with Madison on to start really putting that all together. And everything we do, from when somebody looks at the website going all the way out to we make a presentation to a brokerage firm, we're very consistent with the information that we have. And so a lot of this is going to be data driven. And there's there's information that was provided to you. There's a 2-pager that provides background. You didn't? Oh, I put
We
it,
have more information for you.
I'll send-
When I send out the presentation, I'll send you out this document as well, which will go into more detail as to what that plan is.
yeah, so I,
Stephen Madison are looking at.
yeah, so we'll get you that. So Madison and I are putting that together, and it's just a generalized outline. It's a 2-pager of where we want to head as far as putting the touch and feel all together. And it looks at consistent brand for the town. And I know we touched a little on here as far as, and it just kind of brings everything together. So,
So this is your and Madison's analysis and wanting to be implementation from the Evolve.
yeah, so we take the information from Evolve. What the Evolve information does is it's giving us the direction, right? Now we're gonna take that and really have a focused promotional plan that's gonna look at our website. Everything in touch and feel we have with anybody who's gonna be looking to participate, invest, a visitor, traffic, all that will be coordinated and consolidated. But we're gonna be very proactive about it. Not that we haven't been, but
And this is on your 2-page thing.
it's on the 2-page thing, and so it's gonna be a priority. That's what this is what I'm recommending, and that should be a priority. And it's something that I know, I wish, I'm kind of sad that Councilman Johnson wasn't here because it's something that's very, I think, close to, near to him, that he wants us to really be focused on from an economic development perspective. And I do agree with, now that we have the pieces in place, we should be hitting on all cylinders with that.
Council, if I may, it may be something we also want to discuss publicly as well.
Yep.
So I'll get you that with the presentation, and then we can make a determination if you want to put that on the agenda item.
Oh, yeah, we ought to,
Yeah, I'm sure, I think that would be important.
Good.
And we can tweak it if you don't.
for a lot of reasons.
And then, again, we're going to work actively with, particularly we'll start with the Easy Street and, this core ownership group. I've talked to a couple key ownerships members. They're super excited about putting together an ownership group, and they're interested in talking about the things that I think have been outlined, and particularly the use overlay for retail. And that's one of the things that I actually just had a conversation yesterday with one of the key stakeholders in our community. And so we'll work with them, let these property owners take the lead, but they can also be a resource as Stacy looks to do the whole update to the zoning code and we start looking at overlays, be that resource that allows them to get guide information from the business community or those invested into these properties, and not just the ones who are invested just to hold and make money, but the ones who truly buy into what we're trying to achieve or what we're trying
Can
to
you
accomplish.
share with us the business owners that you said have bought into this?
Yeah, well, you saw Joe here at the
Yeah.
last meeting, so she's one of the key business owners, and then we'll work with Spanish Village as well.
To those two.
Yeah, and the nice thing is it's really not it's not going to be a staff driven like a merchant meeting or anything like that. This is really something that needs to be coming from the ground up from the property owners, and we're there to provide information and guidance to them and be a resource to those businesses. That's really what our job is at that point. And then again, we need to update the Village Center redevelopment plan to include some of disposition recommendations and add the analysis as part of the ongoing documentation. We'll do that. There's certain things that we may want to include in there, like the position statement, that we put with that ultimate position.
Wait, so you said update the redevelopment plan. We were saying that we weren't going to be adopting it, we were going to be accepting it.
Right, so this is what I'm talking about. So these are recommendations, how you guys want to, that you didn't have to accept it, but we can put it in as an appendice of something that was completed as information that could be utilized, right? So it's just having some formalized understanding that this is where it came from, this is what's derived from, and this is why we did it.
And you can do that.
Yeah. Mhm. And then the other thing is that came out of this was really looking at the working group to look at the gardens, and there's something else. Oh, that's okay. To work with the gardens and how they best fit in with the overall goal of really creating the retail environment that we want to create. And so I think the gardens serve a really strong purpose, and it serves a public purpose. I know, Councilman Miller, we've talked about this, and I know it seems like it takes a long time to have these conversations, but I think we're in a place now where you have property owners who are in a position to want to be able to figure out how we can make all of that happen. And one of the ways that we're also looking at that, I'm going to tie it all together here, is the bids, discussion that we had, and I don't know if the two-pager made it to them as well. I provided a backup documentation on the bids and how that works. So if it's something, since you don't have it here, but if you want to discuss what that is, I can give you a brief discussion when it's appropriate.
Now, you were saying on the gardens, I'm just curious, is this something different from the item on here that was responsibility under administration for fiscal year 28 to develop a master plan to enhance the gardens?
Yeah,
So is that separate from what you're talking about?
what is it reading there?
It says Carefree Gardens, develop a master plan to enhance the gardens and their use, utilizing a stakeholder group. Responsibility was under administration, and this was fiscal year 28.
Yeah, I'm saying we should still continue to do that, so.
Or accelerate it.
Accelerate it, yeah. I think it's,
Yeah.
Do it
And
concurrently.
before, when it was there, whose responsibility is it?
Administration.
So maybe it's an economic development.
Yeah, and I think
responsibility.
it's both economic development and communications, right?
Yeah.
I know Madison's worked really hard with Steve on that as well,
Mhm.
so,
yeah,
that'll be a good one.
so we'll roll that over. Yeah.
And just to step back on the business improvement districts, I'll give you the two-pager, and again, that goes to the fact that I think if we wanna have a really good discussion about business improvement districts, we probably need to have Nick Cook with us.
We need to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
What
there's
you
a
can
lot
do,
of
what you can't.
legal implications to business improvement districts. So I'll get you the handout Steve put together, which gives you the generalities of it, but if we wanna have a discussion, I think we have to figure out how it applies to our town code and our, you know, what we have here in place for a statutory town, so it also ties into state statute as well. So I think that the discussion is better had with an attorney present, so we get that legal advice that we need.
So we know how they work.
And that can be a
Any of
public
us know.
discussion in regular meeting.
I don't want to get too deep into it, because
Yeah,
you can get deep into them, it's a couple
we
hours.
won't have the answers, right?
No.
That's what it comes down to. I think that concludes Steve's. Any other questions for economic development? Thank you very much. The next one is real quick. Madison's updates and communications updates. I'll handle that for her today. She had a one regarding community engagement. So we're respectfully requesting that we push that up to FY27 year end. She's going to need to research those best practices on community engagement. What we need to do is take a look at what everybody else is doing here in the valley. And also, I'd like her to get a larger picture look at what's going on nationally in some comparative towns, using our demographics and using our median income and doing a real data-driven kind of research project. So if you don't mind, we'd like to just push that one up to FY27. And then,
I would just add that I think it should read research and implement.
okay, good. And then, as you know, we talked about the transparency portal earlier, so we'll move that under town administration and town clerk. And then, these were just some general recommendations before you even begin your discussion. Like I said, next few slides will take us through the actual plan, so we can look at what's going on in 27 and 28. Communications, Madison talked about enhancing the town branding. I think that some of that will happen organically with some of the other things that we're doing. Such as this positioning piece, as well as part of that community engagement piece. And we need to look at branding as an overall. I don't know if we necessarily even want to call it branding right now, but for a visitor destination purpose, that's usually what it's called. So we'll include that. And again, these aren't things that we're putting in the strategic plan. These are just letting you know what some of the next steps are and what the next steps could be. We'll go back to that optimizing the websites, both of them, the current one. And then the visitor center enhancement, which Madison's been working on this year. Again, as you can see, we've done some flooring upgrades, we've done some painting, we have some security upgrades we need to do, and that will help reinforce our town brand, town positioning. And then the communications and economic development piece. This is both Steve and Madison. Develop a consistent promotional strategy, create a comprehensive marketing strategy. And that's why I said the ones above should flow kind of organically into that marketing strategy for both our internal and external stakeholders. stakeholders. So that's our residents, our visitors, our investors, our business owners, and so on. So that'll be a big part of creating like a whole flow through that process. And then invest in Carefree Initiative, developing marketing packages, presentation materials, investment opportunity brochures to attract businesses and investors. That is one thing that we really don't have, and that I think ties into all of this. This isn't swag like what we see at the League of Arizona Cities and Towns necessarily. This is more of putting together a portfolio that, you know, highlights who we are, what we look like, and all the major pieces of it. So that's something we would like to be working on as well this year. And then, as Steve has mentioned, updating that village center redevelopment plan. So those are some of the other things that we talked about.
And I do want to emphasize, there's an active component to all of this, of getting off of our shores and going and talking to a lot of the people around in the community who influence or do these things directly. And so those are the things we'll be doing, and where we can engage and involve council members and the mayor or whoever to participate in that, we definitely will work on that. And then on the branding side of things, I wanted to say there's two ways to look at the brand. It's the brand of the organization, and everything that we put out has a familiar touch and feel that people are familiar with. And then there's the brand of the community, right? And I think we've addressed a lot of that through the positioning. And so I don't want to get bogged down with the town logo again or any of that kind of stuff, but it really just, our touch and feel is consistent. That's really where we need to get to.
So this is what the plan currently looks like, and I'll kind of guide this for you all to go through, right? So we've talked about the fire and EMS, even though that was June 27th. We're going to move that over to the accomplished category, right? We'll create an additional section in your plan for accomplishments. We have the overlay district coming up for FY28, so that's still a little bit further out, but that's something that you have comment on that. Do you have anything you want to adjust for this item?
Yes, we want to move it up.
I don't think Stacey.
It was discussed by almost like everyone. We're like, okay, it really just seems like after evolving all these things, these discussions, we don't want to try and do all these other things and then try and do that after the fact, and then it's kind of more problematic. I mean, Stacey, you can touch to that.
I mean, if there's things you want to move forward with in that positioning plan, and I believe that was one of the recommendations of that plan, it's something that we can incorporate or utilize our existing consultant with, Michael Bacon, Massachusetts Overlay District. It's just another layer of zoning.
But it might be even less expensive versus hiring them again for a second one, and it just might make it more cohesive, right?
Yes, I mean, it's just kind of the same person. He understands what's happening on a broader level, and because of doing the overlay is kind of on a more concentrated level. There is definitely an economy of time, an economy of fee, but it's not an inexpensive endeavor to do it to an overlay district, especially because we're going to, like Steve said, we're going to pull in a different group of stakeholders. I think talking about what the positioning study is their vision or our vision now, and to actually then implement that and create regulation associated with that, I think that's going to be a pretty involved conversation with property owners and understanding what that ultimate expectation is in that overlay district. So, but yeah, I mean, I did talk to Michael Baker and Ashton with Matt, and I mean, they'd be happy to put a proposal together. I think we just have to get them to do it.
That will have budget implications as well, won't it? I mean, because it won't be something that we can build into the existing contract. We have to do that as either an additional change order or.
It would be a change. I mean, right. I mean, it's not budgeted for,
right.
But it would. At least we don't have to go out and solicit for more.
So,
I mean, is anyone else? I mean, I thought there was like several people that all kind of thought we needed to move this up.
Well, I think after our post, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I could, if I could head, pull it in, but we have to look at your ability to manage it in terms of everything else that.
Well, I'd like to see
might
that something
happen in
else sort of
27.
shift. Yeah, right. I mean, even though there's somebody else who's kind of doing a lot of the work, just managing and then managing people around it in the process. I think some of the things that, again, when we looked at it in the strategic plan, I think we said, okay, we'll do this fiscal year, and we'll do that this next fiscal year. And I think these things take a little bit longer to do correctly. So, if that is something you wanna push up, I'd probably wanna see something else pushed out.
Yeah, because this is, like you said, it's an entire new group of people. It's an
It will be
advisory group, right? And so that
Well, the
means-
advisory
that
group's
means you
not
have
for the
to have-
zoning overlay.
That means you have to have meetings
You would
with,
have one too,
that means you have to have meetings with a different set of people.
right?
It's,
I probably wanna
It's a
see a
burden.
liaison
It's work.
maybe, like having like one or two people from the zoning ordinance group be a part of that overlay group so that there's kind of a, you know, so it's not the two isolated, efforts. But yes, it would be, you know, because the whole, you know, we're looking at property owners and major businesses and things like that versus, the citizenry in general.
I mean, I think there's probably a fine balance between kind of the wish list that, say, citizens might have, or people like me don't understand all the legal sides of the zoning overlay. So the wish list, and then the property owners who don't want to be micromanaged. And so to try to strike a fine balance, I mean, obviously Matt knows how to do that.
Right. Well, and the thing with an overlay district, right, is that, there's things that, you know, that incentivize the property owners, but they may be things that, you know, they want something and so they have to give something back in return. And I guess finding that balance is, do we wanna give them what they want to get the rest of it?
yeah, so it's a discussion, which means it's a significant effort.
But it's gonna be a big one, I
Make
think,
sure
for our
that-
town center, yeah, because I think people have different ideas of town centers.
So the question becomes, can we sustain the effort of doing the zoning ordinance concurrently with the overlay
I think you could
process?
do these two together, but again, I think I'm more concerned about some of the other efforts that are,
So what would you think you would maybe push back?
I would just suggest we go through the list, of
Okay.
P and Z things, things that fall under Stacy's umbrella.
It appears that it's a priority for the council in their strategic plan to move up the overlay. Am I hearing that? Okay, so then as we go forward, you'll need to point out what you think we need to push up
Okay.
or move around.
Exactly.
Then the other piece is we understand that there's a budget implication with this that we need to work out fairly quickly if we want to begin this in fiscal year.
Well, Kristen, if I may, for me, I think it's more about the council in terms of what they would like to see. If we're moving something up, something else has to
Yeah,
give.
yeah,
So you
absolutely.
all,
Right.
it's all your priorities. I don't think it's about what the effort is. I
Right.
think it's about, you know, what wants to happen next. I'm happy to implement whatever wants to happen
Right.
next.
We just don't want to overload you with too many things so that we
Well-
struggle with implementation, right?
Right, well,
So-
right, because if you're moving up something that was at 28, somewhere, whatever you moved up to 27 now has to go
Yeah.
down to 28. So
Right.
that's, I
So
don't
in
think that's.
27, we have update design guidelines. And would that be, I mean, part of the zoning overlay though would that not include
It
any
can,
design guidelines?
it typically doesn't, it
Okay.
can. But then again, so you wanna do that and then we wanna do like design, you know, then again, it's kind of a more extended.
Well, I mean, does zoning overlay kind of supersede design guidelines in the sense that?
Not necessarily, because I think the thing too is with design guidelines, I don't believe this was just town center, I thought this was community.
Yeah.
So, if you wanna do design, that's almost another
Okay.
project.
Yeah, no, it is.
But I think the zoning overlay would then kind of, I think, address the things that we wanted to in town center, right? That would have some design parts to it.
It's more about form, like, we want shade, you know, we were talking about the other day, I think it was a council meeting, about incorporating shade into our walkways. So that's can be part of the overlay.
And height.
Design guidelines kind of talk about, what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know, is it metal, is it wood, does it have plants, you know, things like that. So that's kind of the difference. But again, yeah, a lot of people do overlay and design guidelines together, but that's a whole, you're incorporating like a whole other process into the process.
And so I think.
I know, I understand, I think we want all this done now, and that's what's really hard.
No.
So I think an argument could be made to say, push out design guidelines from 27 to 28 and pull in the overlay, because there's some economies of scale kind
We like to do it that way,
Zoning
that's,
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
is you should look at it, pull your stuff out, because you know more than any of us do, time involved with each of your sections.
Yep.
So it would be good for us to hear from you, like you just said, the zoning with the overlay makes sense to run
I see.
concurrently.
Okay.
And you're saying push design, so we're looking to you for you to say, this is what I can get done successfully in this order. If you want to try and throw it all together, it's going to be hard to manage well. And that's what we're looking is what's going to make it for you to be able to manage these pieces well for us to get the optimum outcome. And if it's pulling something into 28, that makes sense. You know better than we do what works. So advice and consent on this would be from you to us.
No, I understand that. I guess when I look at the list,
Well, why don't we just, we'll keep
do you
going.
want to
through
go,
it
yeah,
and
let me go
pull out
through and then we
yours
can get
as
to
we go.
that list.
And but I think Colleen made a really good point. We have Michael Baker on tap right now, working very closely in our zone, right? So the kind of concurrentness of this makes a lot of sense. Because they're already in there. You know, they'd have to come back and just finish our project and come back. So I think it makes a lot of sense to run them concurrently. So we'll just, let's keep looking through here and then see what we got. So, we just did, gosh, where were we, guys?
So you're on cost recovery.
Thank you. So cost recovery fees done, we talked about that. Build out plan done, but not really done. We know that's going to keep ongoing, we'll leave that there. Software integration, I'm gonna change that to ongoing because I'm gonna tell you that's never gonna end. So we got software integration that's gonna go on for quite a few more years. Facade program, we know that we've implemented it, we've achieved the goal, we put that in accomplished. Town hall, how do you want to, we need to keep this ongoing, right? We initially, we met the goal of 26 doing the due diligence. Now we need to keep going. What do we expect to see by the end of FY27? I think what I heard you say is we want to know the costs. We want to be able to build those costs in. So for FY27, the next milestone was how much is this going to cost us?
For different options.
Yeah. Okay. Then we go to the market position strategy, which we've accomplished, which has given us some other things to do as a result of that. And here's where we see most of the planning and zoning stuff, so this should make it a little easier on everybody. We got the design guidelines and ordinance.
Wait, you have to turn the page.
Yeah, I'm doing it on mine, not on there. I gotta figure out how to connect that to that. Thank you. So we got the design guidelines, which we were just talking about, potentially moving to FY28, and we've got that zoning ordinance, which FY27. Signage and lighting guidelines, that falls under FY27.
I think she was saying that kind of goes with design
Okay,
guidelines,
so
right?
design guidelines. So
It
those-
can, right? It just makes that a little broader of an effort.
We finished the citizen participation ordinance, parks and open space, let's come back to that in a minute. So really the open ones on this are the parks and open space, and I think we should most likely put the zoning overlay, we have it in fiscal sustainability, we'll leave that there, but know that it kind of coordinates here as well with the authentic small town community focus. So what do y'all think?
No, I understand what Diane is saying. I mean, I think part of the issue is, and I'm not sure it has to be answered today, is it might be best if I can reach out to Matt or other consultants to understand how long each of these efforts take, right? Because I think that, you know, we're moving things up and down and combining things that seem to make sense, but they may have, by doing so, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the same time frame just because it's not the same year. It could be a broader time frame.
So you would check with him on the zoning overlay and those top
Well,
three?
the guidelines for sure. I mean,
Design and sign lighting.
And for example, parks and open space, having been involved in that myself for a number of years, I mean, that could take a year or two to even complete a comprehensive plan. for
Well, and
open
that's
space.
at 28, so.
But what I'm saying is that may be something that, Stacy, in order to accomplish that in 28, has to start that in, July 1st of 2027. Right? So
Maybe that moves.
that might be something we roll out, right? if it's appropriate, please, the council.
But I think that might be a good idea for you to reach out to Matt and ask him.
As we keep, I mean, sure, I mean, if we can get him to, I believe if you all are comfortable with him and he can accomplish these efforts, as much as we can kind of
Yeah.
roll him into accomplishing these things, but yeah, right, it's obviously gonna have an impact on the time frame. I just don't think just because he's working on it means it all's gonna happen at one time.
Okay. So I guess we could just maybe.
Okay, maybe can you tell me though, of all these things, now that you're rethinking them, you know, so obviously the zoning, I know it's on another page, that moved up in priority. Is there a priority of these
I
things?
think we're moving parks and open space
Down,
down.
even to like a fiscal year 29?
Yeah.
I think the zoning ordinance and the overlay are the most important, because if you get those right, code enforcement is gonna fall under that.
Well,
Yeah,
the code enforcement is
that
done,
could
but the
be
design
moved
guidelines
down.
would go, yeah, design and sign could follow once you
Yeah.
have the zoning ordinance and the overlay.
So
And
those
that's all
two may
kind
fall, right, okay. That's what I'm wondering, if the design guidelines maybe together with signage and lighting guidelines, while it might be a broader effort, may need to happen later.
To go to fiscal 28, depending on what Matt tells you.
Yeah, zoning overlay will have an economic impact for us. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty important.
Okay.
Okay, so the ones that signing and lighting and the design guidelines are the ones that we need to get a feel for how long those would take.
I'd like to.
Potentially push those up.
Okay.
Push those out.
But the
Yep.
public participation process is still just part of the zoning law.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Space 27.
I'm sorry, it's in.
Oh,
Yeah.
the new order.
The zoning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing about moving the signage out, and we don't have to get to the specifics of within the town, but I think we can't ignore the outskirts of town.
The new signs are being installed like this month,
They are.
like in March.
So when we talk about
Right.
Well, we're gonna take delivery of a mock-up supposedly next week, and the footings are being built.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's in the process, so that is that part.
Because that, yeah, I mean, we have to find ways to get people in here.
Yeah, those signs are.
But in the context of this signage and lighting guidelines, signage, what do we mean by signage?
I think we're talking about commercial signage,
Yeah.
trying to figure out, you know, because we definitely have a diversity of signage.
Yeah,
so
we've got
depending upon the business, you know, and we just don't have anything that says this is what you really should be doing.
Does that include political signs?
That's with the zoning ordinance update, yeah, that's kind of gonna be with signage in general, but I think this, the guidelines, design guidelines associated with it are more about how can we, get a greater, quality of signage in our commercial areas.
So
Okay,
design
so kind of like
guidelines
Spanish Village, how we
design
do
guidelines
it
go
there.
along with signage and lighting guidelines.
Yes.
Yeah. So
But yeah, so Spanish Village is nice, right, because they did that comprehensive sign.
Well, and they have a
plan.
comprehensive sign.
Yeah.
Right, right, but I think sometimes these guidelines are more for that individual user.
Correct.
Who, you know, like we've seen a couple of new businesses lately where they just have kind of a flat. It's not like, you know, they're very, checkerboard kind of.
It'd be nice for them to have their little logo or whatever kind of tied into an overall consistent.
Well, and
If
there's other
we can
things
do
too, you like to
Yeah.
see sort of, separate letters,
Yeah.
logos and, well lit, things like that.
Yeah.
But as you go through the overlay discussion, that may, if you're talking about a specific area, you may be looking at specific things that they'll agree to as part of that overlay.
That's where I think Matt's gonna give you a lot
He
of
might
Yeah.
be, yeah, but,
guidance.
but I don't know if they're gonna be able to say these are what those, this is what the criteria will be.
Right, but at least you get the idea of,
Like, you know, individual letters versus box signs and materials and things like
right,
that.
get away from the plywood.
Yeah, I think they're.
Good size limitation, lighting forms.
Everything, I mean, could, if we had the resources, everything could go.
It'd be great if you could do it all together
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, and it would be beautiful, but we don't have the resources, and, you know, everything costs us either money or time, so that's the thing we always get to look at.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay,
But we also learned through the circulation and the signage, and when we did all of that, it was a lot. And it's a lot. And sometimes when it's too much, it just gets bogged down. And we kind of learned a lesson with that. I know I did. And so for us to be able to keep focus, and really stay on task, I think is important.
Sometimes it's best to know what you want our end result to be
Right.
before we even begin the process.
We should always know what the end result should be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, at the time, we all knew, but it changed.
Yeah. So on this page as well, we've got these parks and open space. As you can see, there is this park and open space interim one for administration, town council.
Yes,
I do not have an update on that.
Oh,
I
well, I can update you on that.
May.
So the original effort was to find someone who could lead such a group, who's accepted by Carefree Park and by Desert Trails Land Trust. So we did actually identify a few, but none of them were willing to be the leader. Okay. So at the end of the day, the leader of both organizations have agreed to jointly lead it. And now they should be, I've encouraged them as recently as last week, again, to get together and do stuff together. And they seem to be agreeable to it. So the ball, in a sense, is in their court.
Okay. So is that one that we can put in, we've done our part?
I would say certainly by the end of this fiscal year,
Okay.
in the next 3 months, they should be doing something together.
Getting together at least, yeah. Well, they need to come together and determine what they.
Yeah, exactly. And then I asked them to bring two additional members, wherever they choose, party, and so it'll be an odd thing, right? Odd thing, that'll be an even number. Okay? But at least it's working. Hopefully it'll work.
Well, as an ad hoc committee, you can have the.
Yeah, they're
You don't
just-
need an ad hoc.
Yeah, the idea is to just get on with themselves and champion their interests,
Okay.
which hopefully has some commonality between the two of them.
Okay, so the last one on here that, the overall comprehensive plan for parks and open space. Everyone's agreeable considering that we really want to focus on the zoning overlay and, the priorities that go along with that. The updated design guidelines and signage stuff. Do you want to push that one into 29 or do you want to just leave it in 20?
I would leave it at 28, just for the optics of it. And I see that we can always push it out when we sit down together 12 months from now.
See where we are next year. Okay, sounds good. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. Steve is ahead of me and I love that, thank you, which is infrastructure, and we're nearing the end here. Infrastructure, as you can see, we have a couple we have the multi-year on here, which CJ just talked about, so we know where we are on that, we'll leave that multi-year. We have the town hall, the culvert repair plan, which we know has been, the repair will never be complete, but the plan is in place, right? So I think we can move that to accomplish because we've got that inventory. CJ, do you think that's something that should be moved, or do you think we should add more to that?
I'm sorry, the culvert repair?
Yeah,
No, I think that's
Good,
that's
right?
fine as it is.
council, you think that was good too? Okay.
Isn't there like so we did the inventory. I believe it's ongoing, scheduling and cost estimates.
Yes, it will.
It's
It will
ongoing,
have.
multi-year.
The whitewash will be all of fiscal 27. Presumably after that, fiscal 28, we'd be looking at some of these other floating out there kinds of responsibilities, liabilities.
I think we need to be, it doesn't go in series, okay, what wash is done, let's start planning for the next one. I think there's some, just, you have an evaluation that's done, we should be able to plan what needs.
Budget as needed.
What needs to be done next.
And what we can do is, as we end this plan in FY 28, culverts will come out because we'll actually have a process in place by then. And, so this was, I think, to get it moving. So it is moving now, right? The inventory's done, we know what needs to happen next. This will become just part of doing regular business.
So then every time we have a meeting, you'll bring us, like, do you wanna make these culverts a priority, and then we'll put them on the strategic plan in that next period? Or do you think this is ongoing?
I think it's kind of ongoing, and then if they've created that Bible of like, okay, this is what we have, we know what's working, what's not working, these are ones that need repair, then I think that's part of your CIP plan, and then you come back with the budget approval, and it's like, okay, now we're gonna do this, kind of like the pavement.
Right, once we get it off, get it in the CIP, we can take it off the strategic plan because
Yeah.
it becomes memorialized there.
And then you just get our updates as needed
Yeah.
for the status of those.
Very good way to do it.
So how will we put this in the next strategic plan? Is it in there?
Well, it
So
won't be.
just the
It
white
will need to be in the next one.
Yeah.
Which is still all the way out to 28, right? I mean, this is our existing one, this runs us through June 30th of 2028.
Yeah.
So
For the next one, yeah.
for now, what we could do is we can just put this, we've already developed the plan. We've scheduled one, we have cost estimates for that one, but we have to continue with the cost estimates for the remaining culverts, right?
Well, those are just TLC.
Yeah, so what we could do is just make this as ongoing through fiscal year 2028, right? We'll just put the 28 on it, that way it stays in the top of your priorities through the end of this strategic plan, which they never really. And I think that also is the same with the Pima Road and the Cape Creek Road. I think this needs to extend through the entire strategic
Yeah.
plan. So we'll add those. The other thing, I think I'll add another table to this, or actually with the updates that we did today, and we'll put those just in less verbiage as updates for FY 26. So this table will have at the end of it, FY 26, FY 27, and FY 28 updates. So it'll all be in one place so that we have it in front of us. Okay, anything on here that you want to discuss?
Kristen, might I pose a question for this page that troubles me a bit? The first and fifth bullet items I've never fully understood, and I'm not sure where they originated. And that is this, develop a CIP plan for improving streetscapes and identify CIP projects to harmonize with the circulation plan. For one, those strike me as roughly similar. I think they mostly gesture towards potential fallouts from the ongoing, from the currently under consideration circulation plan. But I'm not sure I'm perceiving a genesis for specific projects. In other words, I'm kind of jealous when I hear about EDAP or the new ZOAG as a stakeholder group that can be the genesis for some of these ideas. I don't feel as though it's, I'm equipped as engineering to bring forward a set of specific projects that have not been identified by stakeholders in any formal, organized manner. So I'm not sure how to address that going forward.
Is streetscapes, is that circulation?
The pavement preservation program update that's gonna be to 27 that then prioritizes, that's what I thought that was.
So you thought streetscapes was paving?
Yeah.
I understood streetscapes to be more like shade structures, shade trees.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, that's my understanding also. And I would make the same comment you made, because I read it and I thought, okay, what are you gonna do? What's your expectation of what you will do when we sit down 12 months from now?
I know, I feel like that's in conflict with then you have a circulation plan that's kind of saying this.
Yeah, you're saying, yeah, what will I
Neither
do?
CJ or I were here when these discussions took place, so that's why it's an excellent
I mean,
clarifying question.
streetscapes,
What were
when
you
you say
thinking?
what Clint did on Easy Street, I mean, to me, that's streetscapes, you put those little plants out there and things, they're great, it's a beautiful addition, to me, that's streetscape. But I think of it like a layman, not an architect or like a engineer.
Well, we're gonna get the circulation plan, and like, the circulation plan, right, had a price tag on it, but obviously that price tag isn't, we're not gonna implement everything all at once, but I think that plan is gonna identify the breakdown of projects,
Well,
and that needs to be budgeted and, I think, flows through it as.
it'll have a breakdown of some projects and all those things, or we'll identify projects, right, or we can break it down based on those projects, but CJ's got a great point. Who's putting what where and agreeing to do things in any particular given fiscal year and budget and how it fits into it all, that has not been determined yet. And that's kind of like where I just left it off as the next step, saying, that's what we need to do. And you're asking the question of, well, how do we do that? And that is what we need to figure out next. And so I don't know if we do have some type of stakeholder, how you guys want to deal with that, something we'll just have to figure out.
I think you need
Can
to.
I ask a clarifying question before we continue? I'm unclear as to what this was to begin with, so what was this to begin with? I think we're stuck with the streetscapes, right?
Forget.
Are we stuck?
Why don't we take it out? I think we start with that, So what do we want this to be, or what was it supposed to be? And has
We
it
don't
organically grown into something else?
I think it shouldn't even be there. My question on it was,
Take it out.
this is in circulation.
Yeah.
So just take it out.
Yeah.
Because if circulation comes and gets approved or doesn't get approved, or parts get approved or whatever, anything that would come from that would then be, need to go to the budget, need to go to engineer, need to get, right? So it's not really a separate thing.
But the circulation plan in my mind doesn't, it's not the complete streetscape. I mean, it
It's just sounds
town center for one, but it looks at, it does look at developing some new types of, circulation pattern, types of, pathways and multi-use trails and things like that. But, it doesn't, like in the town center, like Steve was talking about, there's like these lost connections from one sidewalk to the next or things like that. I thought those were kind of the identifying projects that then get pulled into the CIP, but it doesn't talk about like shaded walkways and landscaping and what that, like we have a cross section in the circulation plan of what the arterials will look like, but it doesn't talk about streetscapes in general, like the ones
So,
immediately in town center. So
yeah.
that's how I thought they were different.
I think we need to explore design concepts that would show that connection with shade, with landscape, and if we come up with a design that is compelling enough, then put some money aside to it and go forward with it. But I'm not sure that we'll come up with a concept that is worthy of the effort. I've been thinking about how do we make these connections, how do we create shade here? And there's not a simple, easy answer for this. When I look at the diversity of the buildings, and if we cover up those facades with our own shade structure, is that adding to the town or not? I think we have a unique town that we need to really exploit the character of what we've got more than creating.
More infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I just keep going back to our problem buildings, if we could just get those things fixed.
Okay.
But I'm racking my brain, because from when we did this, and I don't remember that conversation about streetscape.
I would suggest streetscape improvements, declare victory and say it's done.
Yeah.
But then I would say town center circulation plan, I would argue that should be there, because it talks about connectivity, the sidewalks that appeared earlier in this discussion.
And that's an ongoing thing, because there's so many parts to that, it's like, yeah, so I think it's just.
What that does is that ties in the engineer aspect, aspect of the development of this entire plan as it goes, so that we can budget appropriately, because anything we do as a result of that circulation plan is gonna have out years. So we'll work together on figuring out how to best manage that as the circulation plan continues and as some of the discussions about town center continue, that falls into that. So we'll leave that one on there for now, and then try and figure out after the fact how to best quantify and report on that.
And just so you know, in the improvement district conversation, one of the improvement districts that you can create is a pedestrian mall. So.
Don't add anything more to that.
No,
It's like,
I'm
oh
just-
my God,
I'm not adding it to it, I'm just saying it is when we start looking at town. But it's not something that's specific to the circulation plan, but as we further that conversation, you'll understand a little bit more about how that works, is all I'm saying.
Well, right, and that falls into that kind of the big picture. We have to start funneling it down for council so they can see,
Right.
including the business improvement district aspect of it, how a pedestrian mall would fall into that. So there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And we'll get them all in front of you at
Yeah.
some point. But it's gonna have to kind of be, as they kind of stack in. Okay, anything else on here that we see? We know that the pavement replacement projects will be multi-year. We also know that CJ will begin, and I'll add this in as a note, that CJ is going to have to, we have to start looking at what the next pavement management plan will be, right? That's our next step. Okay, anything else you guys want to do on this page? Okay, we're gonna go to our last page now. Thank you, Steve. These are two that we've already discussed. These fall under innovative and high-performing organization. So that was to create the council policy manual, which we talked about, and transparency portal, excuse me. I'm actually thinking that maybe we should put the technology under this, instead of having it where it is, right? So just change it from, I can't remember which section it was in, sorry, but change it into this, because that technology is all part of being innovative and high performing. If the technology is all efficiency based, so all I'm saying is take it, whatever section we had it in, put it under this one. And that concludes the presentation up there. Mayor, do you want to do a summary of the next steps?
Yeah, well, I think there were some things we wanted to add, so this exercise that we just did, these 2 pages here, with the blue markings are updates to the current plan. On the, we did have things that we talked about, promotional plan for the town. Is that in here somewhere?
We will add it in at your direction.
So I
If
think
you
it should
agree
be
with that
added.
recommendation, we will add that in at your,
These are things that we had on this page here. If you go back
yes,
3, 4, 5 pages.
those were some of the staff recommendations.
Yeah, that's it.
One more,
That's not it.
we'll go too far.
Here's some stuff.
Here, no, yours are, I actually put yours all on one page, so you're good.
Which way was it?
I'll click this time, yeah. Okay. Right here. There we go.
That's it. So I think these are things that we want to have into the strategic plan for this year, actually. Some of these things are in the communications, promotional. I call it enhanced town branding, I call that the promotional plan.
Yeah.
Optimizing websites. Maybe that's built into the plan already somewhere?
I would like to put that, if we could, as separate, because that could turn into a bigger project than we anticipate. And I would, again, put that into the innovative and high performing. Because the better situated we are with our website, the more efficient we are.
And visitor center enhancement, which I guess is Madison, I think.
Yeah.
This is something that,
I would like to ask the question, have we been doing that kind of all along?
no,
Just as a part, or it's something we need to definitely focus on?
well, there's some
Well, there've been
special
improvements to it, yeah.
improvements that are pushed out to get bids on, like doors that lock and unlock automatically. Some signage on that building so people know what's in there, know it's there. And
Some AC issues.
okay, so we have some things above and beyond that.
Yeah.
So I think that should be on there. I mean, we have a visitor center, which is really doesn't
Should be
function.
nice and utilized, yeah.
We've done it with like piecemeal, this, that, and the other, but it really needs to be a thoughtful thing. And then what we would do is work how that fits in overall with the Sanderson Lincoln Pavilion, and you know, a lot of efforts we put into building events there. And so how do we make the visitor center, that whole center, more attractive to visitors, and how do we make that more as an asset to the business community? And so that's where it's all striving towards going, and it kind of crosses over around that. And so even talking about how do we better utilize pavilion space as an extension of the visitor center. We've always, we start talking about this patio, kind of lifestyle that we're trying to build in the area. We should look at maybe having cafe style tables out there and some, chairs for people to sit on and hang out, grab a cup of coffee, and really feel like they're a part of the town. And so I think that's kind of the evolution of that is you just don't walk through a cold, sterile area. It's in itself inviting and has something to offer. So, and I think Sanderson would appreciate it and probably more willing to give us money
So
in the long haul. So,
shall we
need
put
a
that
coffee
under our
cup.
authentic small town community?
Yes.
Alrighty, okay.
Under what?
The authentic small town community. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, and then the next section here is communications and economic development. This is under Steve.
So
yeah.
That's okay.
take
Thanks,
my
Dan.
mom
Thanks for
somewhere.
giving us flowers, thank you. So develop a consistent promotional strategy.
Marketing strategy for internal and external stakeholders. So this becomes, we have this promotional.
Is this one and the same as the promotional?
It's the
bullet?
promotional, yeah. So we'll put a whole promotional strategy. It's all together, and that what we'll work on is that again, it's the comprehensive look at how marketing works with outreach works with this idea of doing an Invest Carefree, that is all coordinated in an effort that is thoughtful, consistent, and this is the thing, and Madison and I have been talking about this for a while now. We work together to we work cooperatively on all of this, and so where I can assist her with marketing, she can assist and be part of the whole outreach part of it as well. And fortunately for her, she's been out for a while, so we put it on hold a little bit, but we really want to get started on that.
So would we take the first recommendation under communications, that's that branding, strengthening and developing branding, and then we would take that consistent promotional strategy, and we take that carefree initiative, and could we give that one name and put that in the strategic plan?
Yep.
So what name would you recommend?
So that was under the promotional plan or promotional strategy. So
Promotional
that was in
plan.
the 2-pager that I provided you. So it included all of those
It's
things.
got all that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And that
that's
was
good.
the outline of it. Yeah.
So the council's already saying, yeah, we can do that, we can put it in the strategic plan without even seeing the 2-pager.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good day.
We'll get you. We'll do an update on
We
that.
may change our mind.
I just don't want to lose sight of the details, though. So we have, basically you were saying combine, enhance town branding / promotional plan and optimizing websites, I guess.
Optimizing websites, we're just gonna take that out, right? That's gonna go as its own, right? And we'll put that in the innovative. And then we'll do this promotional strategy and promotional plan, which will be a written plan. And we'll call that another. And that will include at least the top bullet and then the 2 under communications and economic development. And visitor center can stay separate as well. And the visitor center is going under authentic small town. So now what we need to decide is the promotional plan. Where do we want to put that? Should that go under economic opportunity?
I think it's already kind of in there, so.
Yeah, we should go under economic opportunity.
Okay.
But I think a key part, I just don't want to lose sight of the words in Invest Carefree initiative, where it talks about attracting businesses.
Yes.
Those words need to be there.
Okay. And Steve's 2-page write-up that has that in there as well. So that'll kind of be the guiding document for kicking this off.
Yep. And it'll be a priority that you'll see something fast on that. So we'll probably start with the EDF group, get their input, and then we'll bring it back down.
So are there any other bullets anyone would like to add? Covered everything. Okay,
Good.
so we have, we know how to update the plan now,
Yes.
and we'll do that, and
Will you send us like a draft, so we kind of?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so before the next, it'd be nice if we could put this on the agenda in April, but we need to see it, well before then, like, I'm not sure what that means, 10 days before or something.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see it on April too, because, and we have it in place before we begin the budget workshops.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
I'll commit time to this next week to updating the plan and getting it out for you all to review and for the staff to review too. Probably have them review it first to make sure I got everything in here that we wanted, and then get it out to you guys for your review, and you can give me direct feedback.
Yeah, when the staff looks at it, make sure you haven't bitten off too much for you in
Yeah,
any given
no.
year.
Yeah.
Call Matt on Monday.
Yeah. Well, I just want to recognize too that it's been a very busy year. We're always busy here in Carefree, but we've had a lot of changes, right? So I just want to say thank you to the staff for, staying on top of all of this. And we pretty much put this together in the past week so that we could get stuff in front of you and make sure that we understood exactly where we are too. So, and it's wonderful to have this. This is an excellent tool, an excellent resource for us.
Well done.
Okay, so this document that, passed out at the, last town council meeting, that has the evolved.
Yeah.
So so we've got the zoning ordinance overlay teed up, then so what about the business improvement district?
Yeah.
We don't have that on the strategic plan, but I guess that's not really something we're doing.
We
So-
can't, it's the
So
business
you're,
owners.
so that falls
We're
on you,
gonna-
it's not on the plan.
Right. Well, yeah.
And then, so the marketing and branding analysis for tenant recruitment, that's in the plan. And then town hall redevelopment is, and, okay, just.
Yeah, good. That's very good.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and again, I know we talked about it, P's, but we're on P3 right now. And we're moving through, and this is how it works, right? Everything starts to come together and then people buy into it. So, this is a good place to be.
Okay, anything else?
Well, the last thing on there was that the update to the village center redevelopment plan. And that can mean a lot of things. That can be a full-blown Michael Baker, who did the original plan, update, or this can just be an update. But we're 5 years into a 10-year redevelopment plan. And so there has been interest from some of the P&Z members who have suggested that maybe it's time to evaluate, kind of like how we're evaluating this plan, to evaluate some of those things and see if there's opportunities for us to make those changes. And so we can do something that minimizes and just updates the plan, but not as an overhaul of the plan. We definitely need to include some of the stuff we've done.
We did identify that we have completed quite a few of the items on the implementation plan.
Yep.
And so I did put that very confusing spreadsheet together.
Yeah, I know. No, it was a very helpful spreadsheet is what it was.
So it would be helpful to see what the goals were and where we stand reaching those in the last 5 years.
What is the cost when you do something like that?
It could be anything. We do it internally and just do minimal, or you can go through.
We should do it internally, just like we're doing this.
Because we can tie in
Yeah.
this, everything we've.
We're smart enough to do it.
We
We know
don't
enough.
need a consultant.
No.
And
Okay, I asked it because it was brought up. I wanted to kind of see what direction we wanted to go. Then when we go back, at least now we've got the direction of how the council wants us, and we look at, because
Well, then we really need to put together a document that shows
What's been done.
where we are with this, shows like what have we accomplished.
Yeah.
And so some of them are not, I think, I don't wanna say they're not relevant, but they're kind of captured in other areas. And so it made putting that together a little difficult because the way it's written, that's not exactly what we did, but we did this over here.
right.
And that kind of suffices.
Well, and also I think the thing that, the discussion that came up was there weren't like timeframes to understand the things that were 0 to 3 years.
There were timeframes on the implementation plan.
Yeah.
Well,
We had-
there was time frames, but it wasn't like dates or
Oh, yeah.
It was short term, midterm, long term.
Right.
Right.
But if that's what the
so
direction
we
is,
accomplished. I mean, that's really
Yeah.
big.
so we can update the implementation and then just add in some of the key things that we picked up along the way. Do a minimal update of that, but keep the basic content of it together.
Yeah, you spoke of in your presentation, updating the plan to include.
Yeah.
Evolve.
Yep.
You can do that.
Yes, we'll just include the information and the data as appendices, and then just keep going on that. And then we'll look at the implementation schedule, kind of like the way we're looking at it here, and then bring everything back to P&Z, and then we'll bring it back to council.
So is that something we're putting on here for next fiscal year?
If you want.
Yeah, I say yes, we should.
Next
It's
fiscal
not
year?
exciting.
Well, would it just be ongoing? Why would we start it now? Why wait till next?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're doing.
Start it now.
We've got.
No, it's not like it's a big,
We
huge
do
thing, it's
have-
pretty simple, or straightforward to just do, I don't know that it needs to be on the strategic plan.
Right, but
I'll
so
get it done.
So the P&Z chair likes to work with council direction and those kinds of things. So adding this into that allows us to better manage it through the process.
So that, we'll add this in,
Exactly.
it's fine.
Costs us nothing.
And it'll be in FY 27.
Yep.
But Colleen, to your point, and I agree with you wholly, a lot of times what happens with strategic plans, this is what happens, we get too much into the details. And we start, when we're up here, what are we overarching to? So let's put this one in and then figure out how to kind of roll this into something else going forward in our next strategic plan, because this is always going to need to be updated, isn't it? It's one of those plans that, like in that first slide, it's just strategic plan, other plans. That's the other thing we need probably to get an inventory of our other plans. So center update, which category do you want that in? Fiscal sustainability, economic opportunity, authentic small town community,
Economic.
or district. Economic.
Yeah, it's a Stacy.
Well, that's just the
Yeah,
category.
we definitely want to keep Stacy busy.
Yeah. Every time I walk out here, I'm like, I have no worries
No.
about my job. No. I think it's really called job security. Job security.
Okay, we got it.
Cool, thanks.
Good, okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
the workshop
Thanks for inviting us.
is adjourned.
And this is online, so if you need to look back, you can see it.
What's the last, was it online, Steve?
Just wanna say,
You'll send us the
we're done.
slides.
Thank you,
Done.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Slides, okay.